The 20th session of the Senate in the first regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Antonio Sani Trillanes IV will lead us in prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, Amen. Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you with grateful hearts. We praise you and give you glory for the wonderful things you blessed us and our country with. We pray for your continuous guidance and protection to shield us from the evils of today. May you provide us with the wisdom and fortitude that we may overcome the difficulties that lie ahead. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Trillanes. The Secretary, please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
Ligarda na bilang. With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. How many? 20, excuse me, Majority Leader, correction, there are 20 senators present. With Senator Escudero, that makes it 21 senators present.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal. Oh, by the way, Senator Poe is here, Mr. President. I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 19th session, Wednesday, September 7, and consider the same as approved.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, the motion is approved.
Mr. President, we have many visitors today in the Senate. We have with us the presence of 33 law students from the Pamantasan and Lungsod ng Maynila, led by their class president, Mr. John Erickson Millar Alo. We welcome the visiting law students, Mr. President. And then the guests of Senator Gatchalian, Mayor Grande Gutierrez of Taysan, Batangas, together with his councilors, and Mayor Rowena Codilla of Camanga, Leyte. The guests of Senator Bam Aquino, barangay officials of Palangan, Puerto Galera, Oriental Mindoro, headed by Barangay Captain Estrelita Dolor. We also have members of the Philippine team who won medals in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad. I think there is a resolution to that effect later. We will acknowledge the members and their coaches, Mr. President. I'd like to welcome them, Mr. President.
Welcome to all our visitors, our guests, future pañeros. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Reference of business, Secretary.
Senate Bill number 1129, an act mandating a 2,000 peso across the board increase in the monthly pensions with corresponding adjustment of the minimum monthly pension under the Social Security system, amending for the purpose Section 12 of Republic Act number 1161 as amended, otherwise known as the Social Security Act of 1997 by Senator Soveri.
Referred to the Committees in Government, Corporations and Public Enterprises and Labor, Employment and Human Resources Development.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
with the permission of the Chamber, Mr. President, I move that we suspend the reference of business because I would like to avail of the presence of the members of the Senate right now. So may we, I move that we suspend.
There is a motion to suspend the reference of business. Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you. Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading Senate Bill 1112 under Committee Report number 1.
Is there any objection? There being none, consideration of Senate Bill number 1112 under Committee Report number 1 for third reading is in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dillon is asking me to adjourn the session on my right side, Mr. President.
May we request
the Secretary to read the title of the measure, Mr. President.
Secretary, please do so.
An act postponing the October 2016 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9164 as amended by Republic Act number 9340 and Republic Act number 10656, prescribing additional rules governing the conduct of Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections and for other purposes.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last September 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading, Senate Bill 1112.
Is there an objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Roll call vote for Senate Bill number 1112.
Roll call vote for Senators. Senator Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes,
Recto.
Mr. President, I'd like to vote no, but may I explain my vote?
After the roll call vote, Senator Recto.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary, continue, please.
Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Soberi, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 2 negative votes, Senate Bill number 2 negative votes, yes. Senate Bill number 1112 is approved on third reading. Senator Recto, the Minority Leader, wants to be recognized for the explanation of his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the indulgence of my colleagues here, elective officials in this land, from the president down to the barangay captain, have the same employment status. They're casuals elected to fixed terms. They are hired or fired through the same process, via the ballot, with their employers, otherwise known as the electorate, each deciding whether to extend or end their job contracts. Elections in this land are triennial summer job affairs, with the candidates strutting their stuff all over or stuffing money anywhere in a bid to convince their bosses to renew their employment. The reason why elective positions have expiry dates is one of democracy's greatest virtues. By subjecting the performance of officials to periodic review, the people retain the right to replace those who have not been true to their oath or have turned their backs on them. But for those who have served them well, elections affirm their good work, for nothing validates hard and honest labor than a fresh mandate. And nothing inspires good performance more than the threat of being terminated. This fear of feeling the end of the boot is what keeps us casuals always on our toes. It is because of this principle that only the people can directly extend the tenure of elective public officials that I cannot agree to the proposal to postpone the barangay elections. If this was about extending the terms of mayors or governors by 1 year, there would have been widespread uproar by now. If this bill was about our terms, there would have been an uprising, with waves and waves of protesters laying siege to this building like those swarms entrained to Busan. Pero dahil barangay lang ang apektado, parang ang attitude ay carry lang. But barangays are not the far outposts of government. They are the first line of public service. They are the sovereign's first contact with government and not the last. When fisticuffs break out over videoke noise, they don't call the police or tell it to the Marines. They call the barangay. Domestic disputes are not immediately sent up to our clan courts. They are first arbitrated at the barrio hall. Sick people don't have senators or congressmen on their speed dial. Their first and for many the only option is the barangay captain. He is the first to rush to where flames are, whether from a house burning or from candles on a cake of a senior citizen. For many of our people, senators could be distant creatures living in a galaxy far, far away. But barangay officials, for them, are not unreachable stars. So it should not surprise us if they want to have a say on the fate of the terms of office of officials they are closest to, a job which should not be done for them and usurped by creatures living in a galaxy far, far away. Mr. President, many reasons have been advanced on why we have to postpone barangay polls. I put them into 4 clusters, which I call the 4 Fs: funding, fatigue, fighting the drug wars, and the freeze on public works and government hiring. First is funding. Makakatipid daw. Pero paano? The math here is that by putting off the elections for a year, we are only putting aside funds budgeted for the elections for a year. We can only save money if we are permanently canceling the polls. But we are only postponing it. In budget speak, savings accrue from a terminated project, not from a deferred one. So instead of spending at least 7 billion, if we will hold the elections this year, we will only delay spending it by a year, so in the end, we will still have to spend that 7 billion. In fact, on the contrary, we will be spending more. Some preparatory activities the COMELEC had done will be repeated. For one, the new round of voters registration will have to be conducted. Another familiar refrain we are hearing is election fatigue. That could be the case if barangay elections are a 90-day marathon, like the campaign period for the presidency. But the one for the barangay is a short 10-day sprint. In 2007, we held national and local elections in May, the last time manual counting was done, and then a barangay election later in the year. We also conducted both in 2010 and 2013. But the issue of election fatigue never cropped up. Why? Because unlike a presidential election, which can be a weapon of mass destruction, in a nation where our energy is momentarily dissipated by antics of those applying to solve our problems, instead of using it to solve them. Barangay polls are small blips in the radar. There are no trolls who will anger us, no social media bashing that will bruise us, no expensive TV ads that will interrupt our telenovela watching. The third pretext is that a barangay election would distract the government from pursuing its great war on illegal drugs. But the effect of the postponement is that barangay officials who cuddle or are in cahoots with drug lords are gifted with another year in office. Those who are barangay captains and drug captains at the same time will have 1 year free pass, not courtesy of the people, but of their fellow politicians. Postponement will rob barangay residents of the chance to boot out barangay officials who moonlight as drug traders or whose feeble leadership allowed the proliferation of narcotics in their areas. Don't get me wrong, Mr. President. Mas maraming barangay leaders pa rin ang matitino. Di hamak na mas marami ang nagsaserbisyo. Mas marami ang nagsasakripisyo. Mas marami ang naglilingkod ng todo-todo. Pero marami din dapat ng palitan. PDEA tagged 13,661 out of the 42,036 barangays in the country as drug-affected. In Metro Manila, the prevalence rate is higher, with 92% of 1,706 barangays penetrated by drug lords according to PDEA. This high rate of drug infiltration in our barangays can only be used as an argument for and not against the scheduled holding of elections next month. For barangay leaders who put their lives on the line in battling drug trade where they live, a fresh mandate from grateful residents not only recognizes their work, but renews their license to wage the war. But for barangay leaders who have long dipped their fingers into the dirty jar of shabu sales, the election provides the people they have betrayed to end to them. It is the only way they can liberate themselves from drug lords and barangay officials who have conspired in a lucrative Occupy the Barangay project. By scrapping the polls, we are in effect telling people in the throes of their self-deliverance that change is postponed. Concerns have also been raised that pushing through with the October elections will pull back PNP personnel from the front lines of the drug war. But Mr. President, isn't it true that deploying policemen to barangays during the campaign period would in fact heighten security in barangays and provide them with the opportunity to conduct Oplan Tokhang in places where they will be embedded? The last of the alibis is that the barangay elections would freeze public works construction as well as hiring and deployment of government personnel. But isn't it true, Mr. President, that whether there are elections or not, projects are delayed, that funds are not released, that allotments are not obligated, that personnel positions are not filled? This fiscal scourge is called underspending, and the good budget secretary had pegged at about 1 trillion the amount of appropriations that was not released on time or was not released at all over the past 6 years. Last year, for example, 52.22 billion in DepEd allotment was not obligated. 35 billion in DOTC allotment was not obligated. 8.96 billion in DA allotment was not obligated. And 106.36 billion in DPWH was not obligated. For every peso given to it, DOTC managed to obligate only 56 centavos within the fiscal year. On the part of DPWH, 24 centavos for every budget pesos was unobligated within the same period. In the case of DepEd, 1.4 billion of the 2.4 billion budget for meals for malnourished children was downloaded to the regions only at the tail end of the year. So instead of DepEd cafeterias bragging about millions served, their slogan should be millions deprived. So let me ask this. Was an election ever a culprit for underspending? Never. The previous Senate had spent days probing the issue and poring over hundreds of documents, and never was an election or even a barangay plebiscite cited as a reason for the slow use of funds. So it is time to retire it as a bogey for low fund absorption. The problem lies not in elections. It lies in the incompetence of unelected and unelectable bureaucrats. The same could be said with the hiring of government employees. And for the same reasons that elections should be absolved of the unfair charge that they cause delay in personal appointment. Yearly without fail, we allocate funds to hire more teachers, and yearly without miss, DepEd would fail to hire a single teacher before the June class opening, using funds for teacher recruitment for the year. Were these delays due to elections? My dear colleagues, the answer is no. Hindi rin po totoo ang chismis na isang buwan ang haba ng public works ban tuwing may halalan para sa mga opisyalis ng barangay at SK. Ayon sa Republic Act 6679, 10 araw bago magbarangay elections lamang suspendido ang construction. Inuulit ko po, 10 araw o 9 na tulog lang at hindi sakop lahat ng infrastructure projects. Yun lamang pong provincial, city, municipal, and barangay roads and bridges. Hindi kasama ang flyovers, hindi kasama ang mga airport. And on this point, I would like to thank Senator Sonny for accepting my amendments that the ban be limited to barangay-funded roads and bridges and that the personal hiring and promotion ban, except for barangay-funded positions and job orders, be lifted. That would have sufficed for me to be a postponement convert. But I think, despite Senator Sonny's equal brilliant defense of this bill, I would have to vote on the fundamental principle that we should not tinker with the expiry dates of elective officials. Lastly, so that routinely postponing barangay elections does not become a bad national habit, may I suggest that a real, thorough, comprehensive Barangay Reform Act be pursued. And there is no better Senate to do it than the one led by the son of the father of the local government code. Let us go for durable cures, for the real strengthening of our barangays, not band-aid solutions. Mr. President, I vote yes to barangay reforms, but no to this measure. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Recto. Majority Leader.
Senator Ontiveros wishes to explain her vote also, Mr. President. May we recognize
Senator Ontiveros is recognized to explain her vote on Senate Bill number 1112.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor. I wish to explain my yes vote to this bill, Mr. President. After consultations with all stakeholders, such as the COMELEC, the ILG, AFP, PNP, and the League of Barangays, I join in the calls to defer the barangay elections for not more than 1 year. This would provide our barangay leaders ample time to fully accomplish their programs in their communities and prepare for the nationwide election. However, Mr. President, on the SK polls, I do support the call of different youth groups to proceed with the scheduled election. The SK election, as I have said in interpellation, has already been postponed thrice, resulting in the youth's political disenfranchisement from local governance. Postponing it again might send the wrong signal that the government is not committed to including the youth in the affairs of governance. However, Mr. President, inasmuch as Senate Bill number 1041 combines the barangay and SK elections postponement in one bill, I am constrained to vote in favor of the bill with the reservations above cited, which I wish to include in the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Ontiveros. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the Chamber, Mr. President, I move for the consideration of PS Resolution 132.
Is there any objection? There being none, PS Resolution number 132, the consideration thereof is in order.
May we ask Secretary to read only the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the entire text of the resolution.
Secretary, please
A
do so.
resolution congratulating and commending the Philippine team for garnering 4 medals and 2 honorable mentions in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad held last July 6 to 16, 2016 in Hong Kong.
Mr. President, before I move to recognize the sponsor of the resolution, I would like to acknowledge his guests, the members of the Philippine team who won the medals in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad: Kyle Patrick Dulay, Albert John Patupat, Shaquille Ryan Ke, Vina John Torres, Clyde Wesley Ang, Farrell Eldrin Wu, together with their coaches, Dr. Richard Eden and Dr. Louis Vallejo, and the Math Society of the Philippines President, Dr. Marian Roque. With that, Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Bam Aquino to sponsor the measure.
Senator Aquino is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Magandang hapon, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, mga kaibigan, mga kababayan. It's a distinct honor to be addressing you today to commend some of the brightest minds in the country with a resolution congratulating and commending the Philippine team for garnering 4 medals and 2 honorable mentions in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad held last July 6 to 16, 2016 in Hong Kong, or Senate Resolution number 132. The IMO is considered one of the most rigorous and prestigious annual math competitions in the world, Mr. President. This year, the Philippine contingent cumulatively ranked 17th out of 109 countries who participated in the event. Our representatives also brought home 2 gold medals and 2 silver medals. As the chairman of the Senate Committee on Education, Culture, and Sports, as well as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Science and Technology, I am very proud to present to you these young Filipinos who have brought pride to our country. We ask that they rise together with their parents and their coaches to be acknowledged. Honorable mentions were given to Shaquille Wayanke of Grace Christian College and Vince Jan Torres of Santa Rosa Science and Technology High School. Silver medals were given to Clyde Wesley Ang of Chiang Kai-shek College and Albert John Patupat of De La Salle University Integrated School. Gold medalists, Farrell Eldrian Wu of Makati Gospel New Life Christian Academy and Kyle Patrick Dulay of the Philippine Science High School, Diliman. Leading the team, Mr. President, was Richard Eden of the Ateneo de Manila University Mathematics Department and his deputy, Louis John Vallejo of the University of the Philippines, Diliman Institute of Mathematics. Our warmest congratulations for bringing pride to the country during the recently concluded 2016 International Mathematics Olympiad. And so, Mr. President, breaking the tradition of honoring athletes and beauty queens, today we honor a different set of honorees, and these are, of course, mathletes, or our Math Olympiad competitors. It is my honor, Mr. President, to sponsor this resolution honoring these young Filipinos. Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Aquino.
Mr. President, I move to adopt PS Resolution 132, subject to style.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, PS Resolution number 132 is adopted, subject to style.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also have 2 numbered resolutions already, but these are simple resolutions. So I move to consider PS Resolution 135.
Is there any objection to the motion? PS Resolution number, hearing none, PS Resolution number 135 is in order.
We ask Secretary to read the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the text of the resolution, the entire text.
A resolution commending and congratulating Josephine Medina for winning a bronze medal for the Philippines in the 2016 Rio Paralympics.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Senator Pacquiao is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pride and joy to inform you that our country has once again dominated in the international sporting arena, for which I filed 2 resolutions. First, Senate Resolution number 135, a resolution commending and congratulating Josephine Medina for winning a bronze medal for the Philippines in the 2016 Rio Paralympics. Josephine Medina, the Philippines flag bearer, bagged the bronze medal in the table tennis women's single class 8 at the 2016 Paralympics in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil on September 13, 2016. Medina won against Germany's Julian Wolf to secure a podium finish 11-5, 11-6, 11-7, This win, indeed, the countries would wait for a medal at the Paralympics. This is the first time the country is being home such a prestigious award since 2000. Medina, a polio victim, stands an inspiration to millions of Filipinos to never let their personal battles get in the way of being triumphant over adversities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Pacquiao.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt PS Resolution 135 subject to style.
Is there any objection?
By the way, Mr.
Majority
President,
Leader, yes.
may I amend my motion? I move to adopt Senate Resolution 135 taking into consideration Resolution 138 by Senator Angara.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, proposed Senate Resolution number 1335, taking into consideration PS Resolution number 138, is adopted subject to style.
Thank you. Mr. President, there is a scheduled privilege speech by Senator Richard Gordon, but he has accepted, he has agreed to give way to one more resolution by Senator Manny Pacquiao. So with that, and with the consent of the Chamber, I move to consider Senate Resolution 137.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, PS Resolution number 137 is in order.
May we ask Secretary to read the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the text, the full text of the resolution.
A resolution commending and congratulating the Philippine National Dragon Boat Team for its exemplary performance at the ICF Dragon Boat World Championships in Moscow, Russia.
Mr. President, I move to recognize Senator Manny Pacquiao to sponsor the measure.
Senator Pacquiao is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Second, Second Senate Resolution number 137, a resolution commending and congratulating the Philippine National Dragon Boat Team for its exemplary performance at the ICF Dragon Boat World Championship in Moscow, Russia. The Philippine Dragon Boat delegation bagged 3 gold and silver and 2 bronze medals from the International Canoe Federation Dragon Boat World Championship at the Regatta course Krylatsko in Moscow, Russia. The national team won in the 20-seater junior mixed 500 meters event, 10-seaters junior mixed 200 meters event, and the 20-seater senior mixed 200 meter event. The Filipino paddlers displayed great teamwork, proving that cooperation coupled with discipline and persistence can enable the team to prevail over powerhouses in the Dragon Boat racing circuit. To our world-class athletes, congratulations and thank you for bringing honor and glory to our country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Pacquiao.
Mr. President, I move to adopt Senate Resolution 137, subject to style.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, PS Resolution number 137 is adopted subject to style.
Mr. President, the winning teams would like to have a photo op with the Senate President, so I move to suspend the session for a few minutes, Mr. President.
Session is suspended. Ralph, uban ka na diri. Uban ka diri. Hindi, wala akong kasama. Ralph, sana. Bam, sama mo na si Ralph. Mahilig sa figures yan eh. You love figures. Join the mathematicians.
So 3 on one side and 3 on this
Are, hindi mo ba narinig?
All you guys stay beside the SP.
Come on, Richard.
Yes, Ateneo, Math Department. Batch si Sir Reggie Marcelo.
Si Reggie.
Sige, I'll be on this side.
Ano kayo sa akin, nag-keynote na kayo dati sa akin?
Yes,
Sa
yes.
Math Society.
Sa Math Society. Yes, ma. Halika. Dito. Ralph, hindi mo narinig yung ano ko sa'yo eh. Hindi ka nag-react eh. I love figures. Ako I love numbers. I love figures. Okay, smile. Everybody. Smile. Yung medal mo, gusto mo? Medal. Okay. Isa pa with the medal. Medals. Okay, good. Medals. Forward there. Gitna lang ako. Forward. Here, show your medal. Okay. Show your medal. Sige. Good. Thank you. Very good. Thank you, both of you.
Either engineers or financial engineers.
Congratulations. Bounce, you remember? We naturalized him. Ito siya. Sinister Wu. So, sabi natin na is going to be... Alam ba nila yun?
You're much taller now.
I'll introduce you to Senator Soto.
I'm still grade 12.
Pakilala natin para... So you want it now for Philippines to be...
Richard, Sidik, diyan ka.
Session resumed.
Mr. President, to speak on the matter of public interest, may we recognize Senator Richard Gordon.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senator Gordon is recognized to speak on a matter of public interest.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of the body, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, I stand here before you today to start a conversation on the major issues facing our country today, in which our President is trying to solve by himself. He has his hands full with many problems such as drugs, alliances with the Americans, territorial problems with China, drug conviction of one of our Filipino compatriots in Indonesia, our relationships with the ASEAN, and the perception of the international community towards the Philippines, which may adversely impact investments to our country, hiring and employment of our seamen, exports of tuna and sardine products, and our competitiveness as a country vis-a-vis our ASEAN neighbors, whether for tourism, trade, or investments. We in the Congress should try to help the President solve many of the problems plaguing the country, because it is good for the country. It is good for our people. Today, Mr. President, when we debate these issues, I will not win or I will not lose. The others will try to win or will lose, but in reality, we all work very hard here to make the people win. That is why we're here, to search for solutions, to address problems that will make the people win, uplift their human dignity, and alleviate human suffering. That is why we're here, Your Honor. That's the conversation I would like to have with everybody here in the chamber. And having said that, Your Honor, let me start by giving you the factual situation that we face in terms of drugs and terrorism in connection with the recent declaration of the President of national emergency. Mr. President, when we talk about drugs, terrorism, all the other things that plague us, such as riding in tandem, vigilante killings, we have to make ourselves be aware of the situation in our country. We cannot be strangers. We cannot be outsiders. We cannot be mere watchers and say, it's none of my business, because our country has been doing that. That is why, Mr. President, nabulaga tayo. Biglang lumabas lahat ang mga karumal-dumal na nangyayari. 700,000 people have surrendered as drug pushers or drug users, and so many people have been killed. Now, because of what the President has done, and by the way, I'm not doing this for the President. I'd like to think that I'm doing this sincerely for our country. And let me just say, there's a lot of separation going on right now since the President started this effort. When he declared in the elections, before the elections, sabi niya ganon, pag ako nanalo, magiging madugo. Maraming mamamatay ng mga pusher, mga drug users. Hindi siya nagtatago. Wala siyang tinago sa atin. And perhaps because he knew ang pulso ng bayan, talaga suka-suka na, ayaw na, nung nangyayari, na napapabayaan na namamatay ang tao, nagkalat at nagtalamak ang droga, kahit na laban si Senator Soto at iba mga kasama natin dito, ay wala pa rin nangyayari na talagang mabisa. And so today, nung manalo siya, 6 million votes, and up to now, he has about 94% or 91% of the electorate saying they're for him, at least insofar as August is concerned. I do not know what the latest survey will indicate. But you have a president now
that is a damn the torpedoes, down the throat, stare you down approach. Talagang diretsa kung doon nasa isip niya, nasa puso niya, sasabihin niya. And having said that, Mr. President, let us go through a travelogue, if you will, sa nangyayari sa bayan. Di ba niyo napapansin? Marami ngayon talagang humihiwalay. They're trying to separate themselves from the situation of drugs. Bakit? Nakita ninyo, nung umupo, hindi pa siya umupo, marami nang namatay. Marami nang pinaslang. Bukod doon sa namamatay sa riding in tandem, maraming pinaslang ng mga drug pushers, drug users. Lalo na, nung unprecedentedly, the President took out the maskara, tinanggal ang maskara ng ilang mga general, and unprecedentedly exposed their names to the public. Aba, di lalong dumami. Sapagkat ngayon, yung mga polis na nag-aalaga ng droga, talaga siguro, sinabi ko na ito dati, they may be trying to separate themselves from their people who have been selling drugs for them so that they would enrich themselves, at para mawala yan, they would separate them by eliminating them. That's a possibility, Your Honor. The second possibility is the drug lords are trying to separate themselves from their pushers. Because mahuhuli sila. Baka may testigo na pag sinunda mo yung user, tinanong mo kung sino ang pusher niya, at nahuli mo yung pusher, tinanong mo kung sino ang supplier ng pusher, at tinanong mo yung supplier ng pusher, kung sino talaga supplier doon sa kanyang region, hanggang umabot ka doon sa pinakamataas na drug lord, ay may tama siya sabagat merong trail. Merong witness trail na pwede magtestigo laban doon sa drug lord. In fact, in our hearings here, sinabi sa atin nung hearing ni Senator De Lima at saka ni Senator Lacson, tinanong natin, ano ba ang punot dulo nito? Tinanong ko si General De La Rosa at ang sabi niya, ang punot dulo po nito ay galing sa China. Karamihan ang drugs. Walang pasubaring sinabi yan, and because of that, we wrote a letter right away to the DFA, and thank the heavens, the DFA through Secretary Yasay acted and sent a letter right away to China. I cannot divulge because he asked me not to divulge it, but certainly I'm sure it got China's attention because no country would want to be accused that they are practically sponsoring the sending of drugs to another country. Having said that, Your Honor, it is important for us to understand that we have to make sure that we understand where we're coming from. When the President says, papatayin natin ang mga nagtutulak, kahit hindi niya sinasabing patayin mo yan, ang ibig sabihin yan, para may tacit order, tacit, implied order, na gagalaw at gagalaw yung pulis kahit walang alaga yan. At sasabihin niya, kailangan mawala ito mga nagtutulak ng droga. In the process, baka madulas, baka ma-violate ang human rights sa sinasabi. Tama lang na maganda tayo sa human rights. Because no one in the Senate, I'm sure, will not protect human rights. Because that is our oath. Kasama sa oath natin yan. Na talagang to promote justice at saka talagang equality for all. And having said that, Mr. President, you have to make sure na tuloy nyo, after his inauguration, he again warned drug users and pushers that to stop and to surrender, to surrender. If not, he will expose them. And in fact, he did. And you know, since July 1, there have been almost 3,000 people killed. Unprecedented. 3,000 kaluluwa ang namatay. And because of that, 700,000 drug users have surrendered or pushers, of which 52,000 were drug pushers. Unprecedented. Magaling. Natakot. Lumabas lahat. Perhaps PNC, sinabi ko na yung PNC are killing their snitches, pati yung mga drug lords, pinapatay ang kanilang mga tauhan. And all of a sudden, some of us finally became aware that there was a huge problem. Finally, instead of saying, we do not want drugs, we do not want the crime situation in this country, for the first time, sinasabi natin, dapat mapigil na yan, at sigaw lang tayo na sigaw dati, ngayon, may gumagalaw, ngunit pag gumalaw ang Pangulo, meron rin talbog yan, talbog sa human rights, na talagang, it is not unexpected. Tama lang na may sasagot, because kung mali ang ginagawa, dapat may tatayo. That is important in a democracy. Having said that, what is the prevailing drug situation in our country? 3.7 million Filipinos, according to the Dangerous Drugs Board and the PIDEA, are affected or infected by drugs. Of that, 1 million are young people Ang daming bata sa Pilipinas, kung papabayaan natin ito, lalaganap ito, they will not have a future. Sayang yung ating demographics na dapat maganda sabagat maraming bata, there are a lot of young people, na talaga makakakuha ng trabaho yung kung paparalan natin ng gusto, lalakas ang ating bansa. Pero kung yan ay malululun sa masamang bisyo, ay talagang masisira pa ang ating kinabukasan ng ating bansa. Having said that, sinabi ko na sa inyo, galing sa China, according to De La Rosa, according to PIDEA, according to Dangerous Drugs Board, galing sa China, and that must be addressed. Now, so far, Mr. President, we have identified drug lords here. Unahin natin halimbawa, yung si Jaguar. Ang pangalan noon ay, lalaman ninyo na pinatay siya ang drug lord ng Eastern Visayas, kung di ako nagkakamali. Ang pangalan niya, Franklin, tama ba yun? Hindi. Ang pangalan niya, sorry, I just have to confirm that very well. Jeffrey Jaguar Diaz, Central Visayas drug lord. Sinundan ito ni Melvin Odicta, Dragon. Kung may Jaguar, may Dragon. At si Dragon rin, napaslang kasama ng kanyang asawa. At makikita natin na ito ay pinatay noong August 29. But upon the other hand, marami nang nahuling drug lords. Kuno. Pero ang tanong ko, sinabi si Peter Lim, he was able to fly to China and back to the Philippines according to police intelligence given to President Duterte. Peter Wu Tuan Ko, drug lord, mastermind, despite being a new believed prison inmate, ayun ay naghahasik ng lagim at dilim doon sa bilibid. Herbert Ampang Colangco, a new believed prison inmate. Aba lahat sila, VIP treatment. May banda, may jacuzzi, maraming pera, maraming baril. At nakikita nyo, nakalagay dyan sa new believed prison, nahuli yung dami ng baril doon sa loob ng pitang. Pakipatay lang yung ilaw para makita naman natin yung pinapakita sa boss sa atin dito. At para malaman ninyo na hindi lang drugs, hindi lang pati pera, marami, pati babae nakakapasok. At sabi ni Bato, doon ginagawa pa yung mga shabu na pinapalabas. At alam natin, labas-pasok pa doon. At alam ko na nakakalabas kunyari mag-hospital, I have proof of that, na yung mga drug lord nakakalabas. Hindi lang yan. Pumapatay pa. Pumapatay pa. Nung ako'y unang senador, nagpunta sa akin si Mrs. Rosales, kung hindi ko nagkakamali, ako'y tumayo rito, at in-expose ko, pinatay siya ng motorcycle riding gunman sa Batangas. Pinatay yung judge dahil kinonvict niya. At later on, in April this year, pinatay yung kanyang abogado nitong drug lord na ito. Dahil, di umano, binayaran niya dapat yung judge ng 10 million, hindi tinanggap ng judge, binulsa, di umano, ng abogado. Kaya bumawi yung drug lord, pinatay yung abogado. At pagkatapos, Your Honor, tinangkang papatay at tithreaten si Justice Art Brion. Malaking iskandalo yun kung yan ay iungkatin. At alam ito ng kaibigan natin si Senator Ping Lacson. Pag nang tinanong ko ito, kagad sinabi niya kagad si Justice Brion. And, Mr. President, ganyan katapang yung mga yan. Having said that, apart from the VIP treatment, meron na ba tayong closure? If you look at all the pictures, and if you can show the pictures, yung tumutugtog pa si Colangco, meron nagsasaxophone dyan, marami nangyayari. Concert equipment, appliances found during believed raid. With approval of former prison officials. Tanong, meron na ba tayong inimbestiga rito na prison official? Why? Wala po. Awanin. No closure. Next. Makikita nyo dyan na talagang marami nangyayari. Hindi na natin makikita yan. Can you go to the next slide, please? Galing sa China, sinabi na po natin yan at makikita nyo. At ang nangyari na nga ay yung report nga to this day, Chinese laboratories are still operating in our cities. Just the other day, in Angeles City, sa ilalim ng isang poultry farm, nahuli yung mga Chinese doon sa Angeles City na may shabu laboratory. You all know that. That is a public knowledge. Ang lalakas ng loob pa rin. Sa madaling sabi talaga, meron tayong kinakailangan gawin para talaga masugpo itong mga nagtitinda ng droga sa ating bayan. Meron pa rin drug making sa Valenzuela na nahuli, drug laboratories. Sa Paranaque Jail, pumutok about 3 weeks ago. Sumabog, may pasabog doon. Merong floating shabu laboratory na nahuli sa Subic Bay. My beloved Subic Bay, nakita nyo na isang araw, meron nahuli doon, kinunvict, 6 ata yung na-convict sa Subic for drug pushing. So, makita ninyo, even that discipline has gone down. And talagang, there is proliferation of drugs. Nakikita nyo, kayang suhulan ang mga nasa correctional, kayang suhulan ang mga mayor, na tinanggal na rin ang maskara ng ating Pangulo. Although, of course, sabi ng iba, extrajudicial killing of reputation yon. But as you know, in libel cases, ang mga public officials hindi tinatabla ng libelo sapagkat that is to be expected. Dapat sagutin nila yung mga kasong yan. Although, siyempre, masakit kung hindi mo naman ginagawa. Medyo nagkakaroon ngayon ng takot ang lahat. At least, nag-iingat. So, having said that, marami pa nangyari. Ang nakakadagdag dito at matindi yung tinatawag nating vigilante killings. Ang sinasabi ng mga pulis, napakaraming vigilante killings. Inaamin nila, pumapatay sila. Pero hindi pa rin natin nakukuha yung report ng tinatawag natin ng internal affairs. Nasa batas yan, tayo ang gumawa. We did that. Pero hanggang ngayon, mabagal pa ang report sa atin. Pero may vigilante killings. The other day, siguro kilala ito ni Senator Soto. At ito ay yung babae na kapatid ng isang artista, si Maritoni Fernandez. Sister of Maritoni Fernandez was murdered, may signage pa. Nakalagay yata doon nagtitinda sa mga entertainers ng pusher. Hindi ko mabasa So makita nyo, talagang dumadaloy pa. Nakita natin, hindi natin makakalimutan ang makabagbag damdamin na isang dating drug pusher ay napatay ng mga nakamotorsiklo at tinabaga parang pieta. Yung mahal na birin, hawak yung Panginoon ni si Kristo, yun ang pinalabas ng mga dyaryo doon sa litrato na yun. Makabagdamdamin nga, pero makabagbagdamdamin rin, yung sinabi ni Marie Cris Tabora, ang nakikita sa dyaryo ay yung mga drug pusher na pinapatay, pero hindi nyo nakikita yung hinasik nilang lagim at dilim sa mga pamilya na mga tumanggap ng droga sa mga pamilya. Yung talagang inuumitan. Yung talagang nagnanakaw na, nag-hold up na at nagtutulak na ng husto. So talaga may balancing, may conflict. So today, we are indeed in conflict with what is happening to our country. The other day, a bloody Baguio shooting came out. There are shootouts everywhere in my city. 3 bata ang napatay. Nasa kotse, pinatay. Franklin Bambico, with his pregnant partner, he was killed by unidentified gunmen in Lourdes subdivision in Baguio City. At meron pang isa doon sa Dumaguete, doon sa Inulgan, motorsiklo, tinago ng drug pusher, yung kanyang anak, nung bariling siya, hindi alam ng pulis na binabaril niya pala, ay may dalang bata sa loob ng damit ng drug pusher. Patay rin. Tanong, meron kang tanong araw, south of the border, down Mexico way. Are we going down Mexico way? Because Mexico is a drug-infested country. They have lost their handle on drugs, Mr. President. Nakikita nyo, ang partner natin ng araw sa galleon trade, and we traded in silver and goods, makikita nyo, resulted in thousands of killings. Narinig nyo si El Chapo, kung matindi yung mga drug pusher dito na may combo, may babae sa loob ng preso, si El Chapo, nakahukay sa ilalim ng preso at naglagay ng motorsiklo, naglagay ng highway sa ilalim ng preso para makatakas sa pamagitan ng motorsiklo. Antindi, nabayaran niya lahat yung mga taong na humahawak ng preso. Kaya makikita nyo, ganun katindi pagka pumasok na. Ang sikat na series ngayon na pinapanood, I'm sure, ni Joel Villanueva, at nakikipag-holding hands pa siya sa kanyang may bahay, ay yung Narcos. Nag-uusapan namin ito na isang araw. Pablo Escobar. At ako rin, I must confess, because I was preparing for this, Narcos talaga, makita nyo kung paano hinawakan na isang drug pusher ang isang bansa called Colombia. At talagang he became one of the richest men in the world. At kailan siya natigil, nung kinulong sa sinara ang gripo ng kanyang pera, kinuha lahat yung kanyang pera sa bangko, yung kanyang mga ari-arian, pero tuloy pa rin sapagat ang dami niyang bahay na nagtanim siya ng pera, meron mga puno, nagtanim siya ng pera, may nakuha pa siya, tuyot-tuyot na yung pera, hindi niya na magamit. So, ganun katindi. They are more industrious than those who follow the law in finding ways and means to perpetrate their evil upon us. The United States of America is the biggest market for drugs. And do you know that the U.S. declared its war on drugs in 1971? May war on drugs, Mr. President, in 1971. Declared by President Nixon. It has spent, and they put out $51 billion a year. Ewan ko, mahina ako sa arithmetic, pero pag kinumpit niyo iba yan, times 15 na lang para madali, baka mas malaki pa sa budget ng Philippine government yan. $51 billion a year. 1.5 billion arrests for drug law violations in 2014, and of this, 1.3 million or 83% were for possession only. Laking problema nila, meron pa silang kampanya na say no to drugs ni Mrs. Reagan. So the result is the same. Whether it's Colombia, whether it's America, whether it's Mexico, whether it's in the Philippines or the United States, jails are overloaded. Ganyan katindi ang impact niyan. Corruption everywhere. Inaabot ang narco-politics, international drug trafficking. Are we headed that way too? That is my question. Kita nyo, pati FARC sa Colombia, inabot. Dito, pati ilang mga, sinasabi nila, pati mga NPA raw, meron na rin kasama dyan sa drug pushing because ang laki ng perang nakukuha dyan. It alarms me that with the spate of killings and the number of estimated drug users and pushers in their country, and with 1% of our population of school-age youth, we may go to that direction unless we stop the momentum by recognizing that we do have three major problems in drugs. Yung ating kabataan, tinatamaan. That's the first problem. 2.7 million adult drug pushers, of which 700,000 have surrendered. Di natin halos alam kung anong gagawin sa mga surrender, 700,000. I have ideas on that. We can go even and say, pwede yung mga private drug rehabilitation centers can take in this drug rehab and the government will pay them. But I'm really not too sure about that. I'm not really so hot about that. But I can tell you, Mr. President, the ongoing continuous killing, and this is another problem, that now totals 3,000 since July 1 to September 11. Do we want that? I can ask every senator here. Do we want that? And we have to search into our soul, into our conscience, whether we want that. I'm sure the President is severely stressed by this. Of course, it doesn't help when you say Thailand killed a lot of people as well, and that in Colombia, they killed over 500,000. Over 500,000 people in Colombia. Yun ang informal report. In Mexico, over 130,000 have been killed. So, sabihin natin, mababa pa tayo. But the point is, we have to address the problem. And, makikita nyo, ang sabi sa atin dito, ang problema, number one, alam ni General Lacson ito, non-appearance of prosecution witness. Di dumadating yung police. So, 28%, patay yung kaso. At ako po ay nag-file ng bill ngayon, pa-file natin ngayon, kung titignan niyo yung bill ko, nakalagay doon, insufficiency of evidence 14%, 28% naka-address po. Later, makikita nyo, meron tayong nakalagay dyan kung anong gagawin natin doon. Insufficiency of evidence, that goes into competence, skill, efficiency, reasonable doubt, at least hindi nakahanda ng kaso. Demurrer to evidence granted by the court, 9%. Irregularity, illegality of the arrest, search and seizure. Again, training. Failure to comply, Section 21 of RA 9165. Yung chain of custody, hindi nasusunod. Na kailangan lilitatuhan, nakaharap ang barangay captain, nakalahat yung mga ibang mga kailangan gawin. Hindi nasusunod, kaya na-dismiss ang kaso. And then, death of the accused. Yan po, nangyayari na yan. Namamatay na po yung mga drug pushers. Kaya hindi na nakahabol lahat. Andiyan ang acquitted, reasonable doubt 31%, halos opposite lang ng sinasabi ko, kaya mababasa po natin yan. I will make that of record. In other words, it seems we have been losing the drug war, and narco-politics among LGUs ay kumakalat, among national officials kumakalat, sa ating mga piitan, sa ating Bureau of Correctional, sa mga detention center natin kumakalat, at maaaring kumakalat yan sa pangangampanya ng mga politiko. Ginagamit na campaign fund. So, I'm raising the red flag. We have to act, Mr. President. Let us now move on to the second major problem that we have, terrorism. We have the NPA, which is the longest insurgency in Asia for the last 5 decades. If you include Hukbalahap, talagang pinakamahaba na. So, mga kasama, it has spread throughout Luzon, moving to Visayas and Mindanao. Nakikita nyo, andyan yan. Meron tayong MILF. Nagpipili tayo, magkaroon tayo ng kapayapaan dyan sa MILF. At marami rin napapastang. MILF, yan ang original. Pero matindi ngayon, Mr. President, is Abu Sayyaf. Abu Sayyaf is primarily based in Basilan and Sulu. I've encountered them. I've talked with them. Because kinidnap rin yung mga kasamahan namin sa Red Cross. Andun po ako sa Basilan, nung kinuha ko po yung mga teachers, sama ko si Governor Salapudin, at saka yung Red Cross administrator namin, nung kinuha namin sa Abu Sayyaf, yung mga teachers na kinuha nila in the year 2000. They know the landscape. Sabi nga ni Gringo, nasan diyan sila naglaro, alam nila, lamang na lamang sila sa labanan sa ating gobyerno. They have been declared as a terrorist organization under the US FTO law, Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004. It's a long history of terrorism, but nothing has happened. Every year, sasabihin nila, 200 na lang, bisan 300. Eh bakit ngayon, lumalaki pa, 400 to 800. Hindi natin nasusupil yan. For example, some of the atrocities committed by these groups are as follows. Davao Night Market Bombing, September 2. Kamakailan lang yan. 14 killed, 71 injured. A policeman, SPO1, J. Adremisin, who was relaxing in the Ross Night Market after a quick massage. Tepo. Philippine Red Cross Sultan Kudarat Chapter Volunteer, Krista Bisnon. Krista was a registered nurse who volunteered to work with the PRC chapter in Sultan Kudarat. Pati siya, tinamaan, patay. The Butik attack in Danao del Sur, May 30, 2016, 56 killed, 54 militants, 2 soldiers. The Davao International Airport bombing, nagpunta ako dyan, in 2003, March, 22 killed. Sinundan yan the following month ng Davao Sasa Seaport bombing, April 2, 2003. 17 killed. You can see the bombings and the pictures of that. The Super Ferry bombing in Manila Bay, February 27, 2004. 116 people killed. Dos Palmas kidnapping, May 27, 2001. June 7, 2002. 22 Filipino soldiers killed in the process of trying to get them over the next 10 months. Trying to rescue the 20 hostages taken, of which 5 were killed, including the husband of Gracia Burnham. And who can forget? Nagte-text yung ina, ang sagot ng Abu Sayyaf, hawak ko na yung cellphone ng anak mo, patay na ang son mo, wala na ang ulo niya. Pinutulan na namin ang ulo niya kahapon, August 31, 2016. At kung ikaw ay pupunta rito, puputulan ka rin namin ang ulo. Brazen, agonizing, we are just wringing our hands because wala tayong magawa. LARO del Sur jailbreak, Maute, August 28. Recent lang ito, now showing, practically. 23 prisoners escaped. Ano pa ang mga atrocities ng Abu Sayyaf from 1995 to 2016? Tagal na. 144 soldiers killed, of which 23 were beheaded. 1 civilian killed, beheaded. 48 injured, 32 kidnapped. It is to be noted. Nakasama rin tayo dyan nung kinuha natin yung mga hostages ng Abu Sayyaf. The ASG have kidnapped from 2000 to 2008 21 journalists, of which 7 were Filipino nationals. 14 were foreign journalists from different nationalities. 8 Germans, 4 French, 1 Australian, 1 Danish. Show here a slide of the raid in Entebbe, sapagkat kinikidnap nila ngayon. Ngayon pa lang, 4 na Malaysians ang kinidnap sa barko, sa boat. Pwede nangyari sa Entebbe. Pakibalik lang yung raid on Entebbe, kung saan ay sumugod ang Israel from 2,500 miles out and went to Africa on board C-130s and raided Uganda. Napahiya Uganda, parang walang kalaban-laban, walang sovereignty, napatay pa nila yung maraming Ugandan troops, sira nila yung mga aeroplano, and they got it. Di ba pwede mangyari sa atin yan? Sinabi na nga, nag-iingay na nga yung mga Indonesians, pati Canadians, narinig ko, naulinigan ko na gusto nilang sumugod na sa Sulu o sa Basilan laban sa Abu Sayyaf. We must not allow that, Mr. President. And so now, Mr. President, andito sa Raider Antep, pati yung kapatid ng Prime Minister ngayon, na si Bibi Netanyahu, kapatid niya ang nag-raid doon sa Entebbe, si Jonathan, Yanni Netanyahu. Siya lang ang casualty ng Israel. He was a general, he was killed in that raid sa Entebbe. Let me now go back to the present and show you a slide of foreigners who have been kidnapped by the ASG in the last 2 years. 37 foreigners were kidnapped in total and brought to Basilan and Sulu. In different parts of Mindanao, the Italian in Dipolog City released in early 2016 after paying ransom. Malaysian Bernard Then kidnapped in Sandakan. Pumupunta pa sa Sandakan and Cebu and Sabah and beheaded in Holo. The Canadians John Risdell and Robert Hall kidnapped in Samal Islands. Pinugutan sa Sulu just recently. Nakausap ko pa iba kidnapper niyan. At humingi, alam ba hiningi nyo? 3 bilyon piso ang hinihingi. And, Mr. President, the remaining 12 Malaysians and 22 Indonesians were fishermen sailing in the Sulu Sea area between Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. The continuous kidnappings of these foreigners by ASG might invite intervention from their own countries, just like the radar and tablets have just shown. Let me now discuss the proposal in addressing the problems on drugs and terrorism. Ang sabi ng Presidente, I hereby declare a state of emergency. Nakalagay doon. At sinasabi doon na because of the lawlessness, he is declaring a state of emergency. Don't we have a slide on that? I think that was declared. Ayan yung proclamation. Yung dispositive portion nasa ilalim. Can you bring it down? And medyo hindi mabasa, pero permit me to go near the platform, Your Honor, so I can read it for the Senate. Now, therefore, I, Rodrigo Ro, the 30th President of the Republic of the Philippines, by virtue of the powers vested in me, by Section 18, Article 7, that is the Commander-in-Chief Principle. In other words, Mr. President, this proclamation is based on the executive initiative that is enshrined in Article 7, Section 18, where the President as Commander-in-Chief can call out or command the armed forces of the Philippines, thank you, and the Philippine National Police to undertake such measures as may be permitted by the Constitution and existing laws to suppress any and all forms of lawless violence, medyo tama yun sa lawless violence in Mindanao, and to prevent such lawless violence from spreading and escalating elsewhere in the Philippines with due regard to the fundamental civil and political rights of our citizens. Every time we have the proclamation like this, maraming natatakot kagad because di maganda experience doon sa proclamation. Pero hindi lang si Marcos ang nag-declare na suspension ng writ of habeas corpus. Sila President Quezon, sila President Quirino, President Ramos, sila President Aquino, Cory Aquino, they all declared their own proclamations of emergencies. Pero it was only Quirino, I believe, or Quezon that declared martial law as well as President Marcos. Having said that, Mr. President, nakikita natin, who should declare? Yan ang issue. Maybe, I'm sure, all of us have our own opinions on the matter. Under the Commander-in-Chief Principle, it is the President. If you go to Article 7, Section 18 of the 1987 Constitution, the Congress, if not in session, no, sorry, go before. Go before that. The Congress, no. I will just paraphrase it. Article 70, Article 7, Section 8, or Section 18 of the Constitution provides that the President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces of the Philippines, and whenever it becomes necessary, he may call out such armed forces to prevent or suppress lawless violence, invasion or rebellion. Pwede niya tumawag doon sa lawless violence, pero pag dineclare niya na may invasion or rebellion and he declares martial law, it shall be only for a period not exceeding 60 days, and he can suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus or place the Philippines or any part thereof under martial law. Within 48 hours, however, from the proclamation of martial law, and we lawyers know this, he has to appear in Congress and write the Congress, submit a report in person or in writing to the Congress. The Congress, ito importante ito, voting jointly. One of the few times that we vote jointly. The only time, by a vote of at least a majority of all its members in regular or special session, may revoke such proclamation or suspension, which revocation shall not be set aside by the President upon the initiative Upon the initiative of the President, the Congress may in the same manner extend such proclamation or suspension for a period to be determined by the Congress if the invasion or rebellion shall persist and public safety requires it. If you go on, it even says habeas corpus can only be declared for invasion and rebellion. Go to the next slide, please. Nakalagay dyan, suspension of the writ shall only apply to persons judicially charged for rebellion or offenses inherent in or directly connected with the invasion. During the suspension of the privilege of the writ, any person thus arrested or detained shall be judicially charged within 3 days. Otherwise, he shall be released. Yan ang sinasabi sa Constitution. That, my friends, is the Commander-in-Chief President Executive Initiative. But the people who did this were people who were reacting. They were appointed by the President of the Philippines who had a personal grievance against martial law. And so when he appointed the people there, I was a delegate of the Constitutional Convention with the father of the Senate President. We were elected. During this time, a revolutionary government has been declared, and so therefore, pinili niya lang yung mga ilalagay doon sa Constitution Commission. And therefore, it is not surprising to note that pag gumawa sila ng Constitution, ayaw nila yung martial law, ayaw nila yung suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. At dahil dyan, yan ang nilwas. Pero, alam rin nila na kailangan yan. Darating ang araw kakailanganin yan. So, ang tanong ko, kung hindi natin kailangan yan, bakit nilagay yan? Pinag-usapan namin ni Senate President Drilon noong isang araw, nung magmi-meeting kami sa SET, sabi ko, we have already a eunuch in the law on martial law and suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. Wala na silbi yan. Wala na silbi yan. Pwede namin sabihin sa Senado o sa Kongreso, ayaw namin yan, tapos kaagad ang boxing yan. So, wala bang laban ng ating bansa? Wala bang laban ng ating bansa? Kung sakali may mga emergency, ayun, meron naman naisip ang Constitutional Commission. And I go now to the previous Article 6 of the Constitution that was framed by the Constitutional Commission. And it says, the Congress, by a vote of 2/3 of both houses in joint session assembled, voting separately, shall have the sole power to declare the existence of a state of war. Second, and more apropos, in times of war or national emergency, the Congress may by law authorize the President for kapirasong period, a limited period. And subject to such restrictions, tayo ang nagmamando. Anong restriction? Anong pwede mong gawin? Alright? Galing sa collegial body called Congress. Marami tayo rito, 24 tayo sa baba, daan ang nandun sa Kongreso. Tayo magsasabi for a limited period and subject to such restrictions as it may prescribe to exercise powers necessary and proper to carry out, kailangan may declared national policy. Kailangan yan. And unless sooner withdrawn by resolution of the Congress, tanggalin natin by resolution lang, patulad ng ginawa ni Senator Pacquiao kanina, resolution lang, tanggal yan. Such power shall cease upon hanggang next adjournment lamang of the Congress. So, matindi, mga kapatid. Malinaw. So, talagang, ang sinasabi ko ngayon kay Mr. President Duterte, ang sinasabi ko lang po, we respect you. We believe in your sincerity to eradicate drugs. Mr. President, ayoko sabihin to, ayoko i-quote yung Amerikanong Presidente, do it right. You can do it right by having Congress say there is a state of emergency and we're giving you these powers. We're giving you these powers, Mr. President. You are limited by the powers we're going to give you. And that is why we can even limit it to 60 days or sabi nyo, in 6 months, we will clean up the problem. We will give you those powers. I do not advocate anything here. Like I said, I would like to have a conversation with everyone here on the matter. This is a conversation that I'm asking here amongst us so we can talk wisely. As I said, the winners must be the people. I don't win. I don't lose. None of you will win or none of you will lose. But we have to make an effort that the people must win. Having said that, Mr. President, hindi tayo pwede mag-declare ng writ of habeas corpus. Natatawa nga ako eh. Sabi ng mga tao, narinig nila ako kay Karen Davila, sabi ko, pwede mag-suspension. Eh, kinagat kagad eh. Hindi pinag-aralan. Ako pa nung mukhang hindi nag-aral. Pero sa totoo lang, lundagan kagad. Kaya, hinayaan ko lang. Sige, Mahirap makapalabas sa TV, umaangal si Senator Lacson, ang haba-haba sasabihin niya, pero 6 seconds na lalabas. Tama ba yan, Senator Lacson? Tumatawa siya. Sabi ko, Mr. President, lumabas ka yan. Gusto ko yon. Bakit? Pinag-usapan eh. Ang tao natin bumoboto sa konstitusyon na hindi nag-aaral. Sabihin natin, hindi ko alam yan. Ulitin ko ang tanong. Teka muna, hindi ba nasa konstitusyon niya habeas corpus at saka yung martial law? Ba't hindi nyo sinabi nung araw, ayaw namin yan? Binoto pa ninyo eh. Ako nga, hindi ko binoto yan. Kumampanya ako, laban yan. I campaigned against this constitution. But I took an oath. And I've said that many times. I took an oath, and therefore I will abide by what is in the Constitution. But I can tell you who voted, binoto nyo yan. Hindi ba nyo binasa? So that is that provision that is available to the people of this country. And I'm sure you all know na nandiyan yan. And so having said that, Mr. President, gumawa tayo ng batas ngayon. And I would like to make sure that we handle this because ayoko naman mapalaot ang ating Pangulo. Because ang sinabi niya, executive initiative, commander-in-chief, hindi nababagay po. With all due respect. Hindi po nababagay. At ayoko na sabihin, kung bisa may mali. Dahil siyempre, I know what it is. I was a mayor. Pag may gusto kong gawin, at talagang gusto kong maayos, kumisan talaga, lumalampas ako sa buwan. Sa kagustuhan kong magawa, yung dapat gawin para sa bayan. And I know how President Duterte feels about it. I understand it. I am not against him. I would like to help him if I can help. If he's willing to take it, I'm available. But I am not going to cross the line and go beyond the pale and allow vigilante killings. I said that here. I told General Bato, you cannot say, pag bumunod ka, papatayin kita. There is no such thing as shoot to kill. You do that, and you have to face up to the Senate, especially the Blue Ribbon Committee, if not the Committee of Senator Lacson on Peace and Order and Justice by Senator de Lima. That is the classic statement that I'm saying here. The provision that I cited comes out with the fundamental principle of checks and balances, Mr. President. The President can do this, but there is a check and balance by the legislature. We can give him emergency powers according to the Constitution. We can limit it. That is checks and balances. And the court, as in the decision of David versus Cabral, nakalagay, and I quote, case law, and I ask everybody to listen and read with me. The President may declare a state of national emergency and call out the armed forces to prevent or suppress lawless violence whenever it becomes necessary and if the facts so warrant. However, pakinggan niyo ito, this does not carry with it emergency powers without a proper grant by Congress. Congress is the repository of emergency powers provided in the Constitution, Article 6, Section 23, which I have just discussed with all of us. Executive, legislative, and judicial powers are dispersed. Nakakalat po yan sa ating Constitution to the President, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, respectively. Each is supreme within its own sphere, but none, hindi, wala, isa lang ang may monopolya or monopoly of power in times of emergency. Each branch is given a role to serve as limitation or check upon the other. This system does not weaken the President, it just limits his power. I am for a strong President, Mr. President, but I also want strength through discipline. You cannot have the naked power of arms. It must be based on discipline. And now I say the most important part of what I'd like to say here. The rule of law. We do not allow our country to be accused by all other countries, give them the upper hand, the moral high ground, and say, your country has no rule of law. You will not allow that. We will not allow that. And that is why we go back to the Constitution. That is the rule of law. Where courts exist, where there is access to the courts, and where there is appeal to the courts. And I'm sure, Mr. President, if we understand this Senate will stand its ground. And that is why I say, galing sa Senado ang powers ng emergency, hindi sa Presidente. Kung gusto natin, gawin natin. For my part, Mr. President, I've already created a matrix. Nung sinabi ko ito ng isang araw, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with all due respect to my colleague, Senator De Lima, tinanong na kagad siya ng mga media, o may matrix si Senator Gordon, allergic si Senator De Lima sa salitang matrix eh. Abay, bumanat na kagad sa akin. Sabi ko noon, hindi ko pinasin yun, in fairness to Senator De Lima. Hindi ako bumanat. Sinabi matrix yan, magagalit kagad si Senator De Lima. With all due respect, I did not say anything. In fact, I deliberately did not say anything. However, Mr. President, the law that we've propounded now, and I'd like to ask you, our colleagues to help me, is based on the rule of law and based on the principle of salus populi et suprema lex. The welfare, the health, the safety of the people is the supreme law. Whether it's Hobbes or whether it's anybody else, that is the primordial one. It is why we surrendered some of our individual rights so that the government can form a government that will fight for the welfare of the country. And you hope that government is based on the rule of law, Mr. President. And having said that, Mr. President, what are the highlights of the bill? Entitled An Act Declaring a National Emergency Against Illegal Drugs and Terrorism and Establishing a National Policy to Authorize the President in accordance with the Constitution to exercise necessary and proper powers to address such emergency. Number one, the facts are, as I already said, I'm not going to repeat it anymore, 3,000 killings, 1,490 vigilante killings. That's one too many. Ito, 1,490. 1,510 police killings. 700 persons surrendered upfront to Tokhang as of September 2016. 3.7 million Filipinos affected. Terrorism, 402 bombings in the Philippines. I have a list of that. 402 bombings since 2000, including all the way down to the Davao night bombing, where 16 people were killed and 71 were injured. Why is there a need to declare a national emergency against illegal drugs and terrorism and lawlessness, including riding in tandem? It's because we are sworn under the Constitution. The prime duty of the state to serve is to serve and protect its people. When there are people dying, whether due to drugs or terrorist attacks, the state is perceived to be weak since it can't protect its people who do not feel safe in its own abode. If you kill people without a violation of their rights, that's a slippery slope, even if you justify it na kailangan patayin, hindi sila mahuli. But if you cannot protect the people, on the other hand, that's even more dangerous. And that is why the issue in the last election was peace and order, and the president was elected handsomely with a 6 million vote lead. The state should therefore protect its people using emergency powers, but under the rule of law. And what is the legal basis? Sinabi ko na yung Article 6. Sinabi ko na yung case law, David versus Arroyo, principle of checks and balances, na talagang nakakalat yung separation of powers and checks and balances sa ating Constitution. And what is the declared policy under this law? The state values the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. Due to and by reason thereof, it is hereby declared a national policy to authorize the President in accordance with the Constitution to exercise necessary and proper powers for a limited period only and subject to restrictions prescribed by this Act to effectively address the declared national emergency. What are the salient points of the bill? Congress has granted the following emergency powers to the President. We will appoint special prosecutors. It is up to us, if we agree, whose office will open 24 hours every day, including Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, to receive complaints, file information, and conduct preliminary investigation. The idea is a focused, fast drive to get drug prosecution right away. Appoint special defense counsel. We have to protect the rights of the accused. The President can issue whole departure orders and limit right to travel. To relax the bank secrecy law against terrorists and against drug lords, pushers, etc. To issue freeze orders of property and funds involving illegal drugs and terrorism. Initiate construction of detention centers. Creation of the Congressional Oversight Committee under Section 17 composed of 3 members from House, 3 members of the Senate, and may invite interested parties as well, 3 from the Congress. Its oversight proceedings. The committee oversees and monitors the implementation of the act and shall receive the logbook, which must be prepared by the police and submitted to the Congress bi-weekly, along with the CCTV data, if any, from the police officers required to make the bi-weekly report. It shall likewise receive the bi-weekly report from the President regarding the implementation of the act. The Oversight Committee provides the Congress with checks and balances in the emergency power. Creation of special 24-hour courts. They don't have to be open, but they must be available to hear cases involving illegal drugs and terrorism in every judicial region, conduct continuous and speedy trial, not exceeding 60 days, with a decision to be made within 10 days from the case being submitted for decision. This is ideal, but you always start with the ideal, Mr. President. And now we become a little bit imaginative and innovative, if you will. If there is a writ of kalikasan, we propose to create a writ of salus populi. That means we will not declare the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. But if you read the paper today in France, they arrested somebody, a kid, 15 years old, and if I can have the newspaper there, it says they arrested the kid and put him under house arrest. No court order. And I'm not advocating that here. But the French, having had their share, and I cite you the newspaper today, France arrests boy planning new Paris attack, and the boy was held under house arrest since France declared a state emergency after November 13 attacks. All right? And the reason given is simple. Imminent violence. The danger of imminent violence. When we propose the statute of writ of salus populi ex suprema lex, we assume that there is a clear and present danger, and we are not manghuhula, hindi natin alam kung anong gagawin, hindi naman sasabihin sa atin na magbubomba kung saan sila magbubomba. Pero pag natagpuan natin, meron tayong information, dapat makakapunta tayo sa husgado and say, iniimbitahan natin yan, depende sa words. Or kinukuha natin siya, again, depending on the words, for his own protection because he can testify na meron kami narinig na alam niya na may magbubomba, o di kaya naman, i-detain muna natin siya for 60 days or 30 days, depende sa husgado. Bukas palagi ang husgado. Para may laban naman, mapigil yung imminent violence na tinatawag. That, to my mind, is what I'd like to think. And I ask our colleagues to help us out. Because masulimut ito. The balancing of interest is important. The harm that you're trying to avoid must be weighed against the rights of the individual that you're going to arrest. And we have to set the standards, Mr. President. This means that the person whose life may be in danger and who has information of a drugs-related or terrorist-related crime may be ordered to submit himself to court so that proper investigation may be conducted by the authorities in the interest of national security. This is not strange, Your Honor. This is being done in the witness protection authored by Senator Dillon one time. Yung tinatawag natin witness protection. Di ba? And now, our laws, and hear me out here. Our law in the dangerous drugs law says we can confiscate upon conviction the effects, the instruments of the crime. And when I asked that in the committee hearing, ang sabi sa akin, meron ba kayo nakumpiska? Ang dami nakakulong dyan sa piitan. Meron ba kayo nakumpiska ang kotse, pera, bahay? Ang sagot, wala. Di ko alam kung bakit. I would like to investigate that, Your Honor. I would like to investigate in the Blue Ribbon Committee why nakakapasok yung babae, nakakapasok yung baril, at walang napoprosecute na talagang matitindi doon sa loob ng piitan. Not only in Bilibid, but also in the detention centers, Mr. President. Gusto ko, pumasok yan sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Anyway, tayo lahat nasa Blue Ribbon eh. So, talagang malalaman natin yan. At the same time, Mr. President, itong preliminary attachment, ang ipapalit ko dyan. Pagka may probable cause ako na ikaw nagtitinda ng droga, nahuli kita, aba, I will attach your properties. The government, meaning to say, will attach your properties habang nililitis para hindi mo magamit laban sa gobyerno yung ninakaw mo, yung ginamit mo na panghahamak sa mga Pilipino na yumaman ka dahil sa kaswapangan mo. So we can do preliminary attachment, Mr. President. And we can confiscate and put this under his cheat in favor of government for accused in drug cases. Mr. President, lapit na po ako matapos. Sinabi ko may official logbook and CCTV. Sama yan dyan. Meron dito sa Section 9 na nilagay natin batas, prevention of abuse. Public officials violating this act and willfully failing to attend hearings shall be preventively suspended from office and be disciplined in accordance with existing law. Pwede siya mag-expel. Information and education campaign. Huwag natin tigilan ang mga bata. We should fund Parents Sisters Association para magmi-meeting sila, para makikita nila yung mga bata na pwedeng kandidatong kunin na mga tutulak ng droga dahil may problema sa bahay. We should ask the DepEd mag-train sa bawat eskwela, bawat campus ng guidance counselor para magagawa na makita rin yung mga bata na yan. We should fund that, Mr. President. In fact, Mr. President, I would even go as far as putting a psychiatrist in every province or a psychologist in every province para magawa yan. What about duration? Well, it's up to us. Gusto niyo 180 days, 6 months from effectivity unless sooner withdrawn by a joint resolution of Congress. Yan ang sinasabi sa batas. So in the end, Mr. President, what have we done? What we have done is our duty. The duty enshrined in the Constitution that the government must protect its people. Secondly, under the principle, age-old, salus populi et suprema lex. Sabi nga ni Francis Bacon, judges ought above all to remember, salus populi et suprema lex. Yung welfare, yung health, yung safety ng taong bayan, yun ang tunay na batas na ginagawa natin. And to know that laws, except they be in order to that end, are but things, captious, and oracles were not well inspired. Kundi susundin yun, walang silbi. Yung sinasabi natin yan. Sabi naman, ito sinasabi ni Herbert Broom, sumusulat ng maraming libro sa law. The good of the individual ought to yield to that of the community. This phrase is based on the implied agreement of every member of society that his own individual welfare shall, in cases of necessity, yield to that of the community, and that his property, liberty, and life shall under certain circumstances be placed in jeopardy or even sacrificed for the public good. Coincidentally, we are called upon to fight a war, a defensive war. We can be all drafted. Of course, tayo matatanda na, pero yung mga bata pwede pa. Finally, I end, Mr. President, as a reminder to all of us and the President of the Republic of the Philippines. It would be wise for us to, in our short time, in our idle time, to read A Man for All Seasons. And here, Thomas More is being asked to take the oath of allegiance to the King because he wanted to marry another time and he was going to separate himself from the church. And he was talking to William Roper, and he says, so now you give the devil the benefit of the law. Because gusto ni William Roper, yung si Rich, upakan na ni Thomas More dahil sinisiraan siya doon sa mga advisor ng hari. Sir Thomas More, yes, what would you do? Cut a great road through the law to get after the devil? Puputulin mo lahat ng kahoy para mahabol mo si Satanas? Ano sabi ni William Roper? Yes, I'd cut down every law in England to do that. Ano sagot ni Sir Thomas More? Oh, and when the last law was down and the devil turned around on you, bumalik ang demonyo, wala ka ng batas na matutulong sa'yo, where would you hide? Where would you hide kung wala ng batas? Well, tinanggal nyo na lahat ng batas na tutulong sa individual. At ginagamit na natin ang karahasan, invest in rule of law. At sabi niya, and when the last law was down and the devil turned around on you, where would you hide? Roper, the laws all being flat. This country is planted thick with laws from coast to coast. Man's laws, not God's. And if you cut them down and you're just the man to do it, do you really think you could stand upright in the winds that would blow them? Yes, I'd give the devil benefit of law for my own safety's sake. And that, my friends, my colleagues, beloved colleagues, is the message today. Let us use the law to get the devil. Without that, the devil will get us. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall be open for interpretation.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may we recognize Senator Manny Pacquiao
Senator Pacquiao is
for the
recognized
period of interpellation.
for interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify sa statement po, Mr. President, ng aking colleague kanina sa kanyang privilege speech, sa early ng kanyang privilege speech on this illegal drugs problem in our country. Sinabi nyo na mayroon tayong kailangan gawin para masugpo o mabawasan ang krimen dito sa ating bansa. Gusto ko pong malaman, Mr. President, kung ano yung mga paraan para mabawasan o matigil itong mga illegal drugs activities dito sa ating bansa.
Mr. President, I, for the record, will yield to the questions of the gentleman from General Santos and Sarangani, and I will answer the questions. I already stated some of the things that I've said there. We will have courts that will open 24 hours. We will add prosecutors. Dadagdag tayo ng mga prosecutors. Dadagdagan natin yung mga panlaban ng Estado. Pero hindi natin i-violate. Kaya meron akong pinasok na inimbento, if you will, yung kung merong writ of kalikasan, meron tayong gagawin dito sa Senado, yung writ of the Salus Populi Suprema Lex. Because kung gagamitin mo yung habeas corpus, hindi papayagan. Mahirapan tayo. So marami po yan.
At to this crimen, illegal drugs problem sa ating bansa, nandiyan na yung given na yung may pao tayo para suportahan o dipinsahan yung mga mamayan natin na dapat nangangailangan ng depensa. Pero ang tanong ko po, Mr. President, is ano ba ang nararapat o makakatulong para masugpo at mabawasan itong mga illegal drugs na ito?
Mas mabilis siguro at wala pang kaso kung kasama natin lahat. Kaya nga yung batas na pinopropose ko, meron tayong magbabantay doon sa mga karahasan na maaaring ganapin. At ito ay ang prinsipyo ng separation of powers para magawa yan. Ano yan? Gumagawa ang husgado ng mga gagawin ng mga korte. Pwede nila sabihin, dinagdagan nila 200 courts have opened for drugs. Ginawa na nila yan. Gagawin rin na legislatura yung mga kailangan gawin, katulad ng pagtatayo ng detention centers, appropriate money for that. Now, upon receipt from the President, kung magagawa niya yan. Marami magagawa talaga. At yan ay nakalagay lahat doon sa ating matrix.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to know kung ito bang death penalty ay makakatulong para mabawasan o masugpo itong illegal drugs sa ating bansa.
Maaari rin siguro, pero kanyang pananaw yan eh. Ako, pinaslang ang tatay ko eh. Dapat gusto ko yung death penalty. Pero sa pananaw ko, gusto ko mahuli yung pumatay sa tatay ko at yung mga kasama niya at magdusa ng for life. Hirapan sila, pati pamilya nila. Sa akin, mas malaking deterrent yun. At mas makatao. Yung iba, gustong ibitay ka agad, gustong patayin. Eh pag pinatay mo, di wala na. Eh paano kung nagkamali ka? Katulad sa Amerika, may mga nagkamali, nakita sa DNA, eh hindi pala yun ang pumatay, hindi pala yun ang nag-rape, eh di nagkamali na tayo. So sa akin, yun ang pananaw ko, and I respect kung anong pananaw nyo na dapat maglagay ng death penalty.
Gusto ko pong malaman sa inyong posisyon, Mr. President, kung pabor kayo sa death penalty.
Eh sinabi ko na, ako, ang pananaw ko, ayoko ng death penalty. At I'm sure you can respect that. Now, I have every reason. Eh kayo rin, nire-respeto ko, yan ang gusto nyo. Kung anong desisyon ng ating bayan, yun ang masusunod. Pero ang prinsipyo ko will remain.
Para sa akin po, ang death penalty is isa sa mga solusyon para mabawasan ang ating krimen dito, lalong-lalo na halos karamihan sa pangyayari, mga krimen dito sa ating bansa ay may involvement sa illegal drugs.
Halimbawa po, mayroon isang nakadroga, isang nurse ng St. Luke's, pinasok na sa bahay. Hindi natin alam kung bakit, pero nakayahu siya. Naka-drugs. Pinagsasaksak niya ng 19 times. Pinatay niya. Sabi, kung kayo, kung luwang batas natin, death penalty yan. Alright? Hindi ba dapat mas maganda kung nilitis yung kanyang kaso at nabigyan siya ng tensente, it worked, at sabi ng mga bata, anong gagawin mo dyan? Life imprisonment po. Bakit? Para magdudu siya sa araw-araw at para maging magandang halimbawa na hindi ka dapat maging masamang tao. Pag namatay ka, nakalimutan ka na. Nakalimutan na. Natatandaan niyo ba si yung nag-rape kay Maggie de Lima? Jaime Jose. Natandaan niyo yan? Ako, hindi ko na matandaan yung pangalan eh. Di ba? Pero yung taong pumatay na nasa preso, natatandaan niya kung bakit siya nasa preso. Yung pamilya niya, natatandaan siya kung bakit siya nasa preso. Naghihirap, magdadala ng pagkain sa preso. Bibili ng pambili. At sabihin sa kanya, kasi ikaw, pumatay ka ng tao, tabo lahat kami nahihirapan. Di ba? Ang nasa kakubol.
Ito pong Senate Bill number 185 is death penalty for drug traffickers, drug pushers, drug lords. Ito po ay doon lang sa mga drug traffickers, pushers, drug lords. Itong bill na ito for death penalty. Gusto ko pong malaman sa inyo, pabor po ba kayo dito for mga drug traffickers lang naman, hindi naman ito...
Kay drug trafficker, kay sino man siya, gusto ko magdusa siya, nararamdaman niya yung pait ng kanyang kasalanan. Pag pinatay mo siya, wala na. Ito mo si Udikta, pinatay na. Hindi na siya magsasabi kung sino pang kasama niya.
Okay, gusto ko pong malaman na in our Constitution, death penalty is allowed for heinous crimes. Even in and also in biblically for religious matter, although in the New Testament does not the death penalty does not denounce but assume the right of the state to use it to discipline, yun nga, para madisiplina ang mga tao. Hindi ito masama laban sa mata ng Panginoon, hindi ito masama o labag sa ating konstitusyon. I don't think I have no reason why most of the people or some people in our country are opposing the death penalty for drug traffickers, which is in this time it's necessary to have it.
Your Honor, ito ay another issue not germane to the topic that I raised in my privilege speech, and I will also answer that question. Of course, pwede yan. Pero yan ang prinsipyo ko eh. Ayoko eh.
I respect. Yes, Mr. President, I respect your...
Ha? Doon nga ako natakot sa sinabi ng Presidente. Hindi ko na kailangan niyang extra powers. Nakalagay pa, he did not mention Gordon. Okay lang sa akin yan, di happy ako. Pero, baka naman mangyari pinapatay naman na. Huwag na death penalty, huwag na kayo maglagay niyan. Pinapatay na eh. I don't think that is what he intended. Gusto mo ba yun? Gusto niyo ba yun? Gusto mo ng I don't think we all like that.
That's why we need to have this law, death penalty, para madaan naman sa due process yung mga tao natin na hindi man lang di ba? I'm not saying na gagagawa ng mga pero at least makita nila na in a legal way na naparusahan sila ng ating batas na may due process.
Tatalagay ko lang po, nag-uusap lang ba tayo magkaibigan dito? Si Jesucristo po, di ba? Guilty, death penalty, pinako. Tama po ba yung sentensya sa kanya?
Pinako.
Tama po ba yung sentensya sa kanya? Tama po ba o mali yung pagkasentensya sa kanya?
Death penalty.
Hindi po eh. Hindi tama eh. Bakit? Napatunayan, nag-resurrect pa siya, nabuhay siya eh. Di ba? At ayaw niya eh, di ba?
Hindi, kailangan po niyang gawin yan para tayo ay may kaligtasan.
Tama, para maalis tayo sa kasamaan natin.
We should understand that when Jesus Christ came to this world, He is pure man and pure God. He is destined to sacrifice and crucify, enable us to be saved.
Hindi nga ho naniniwala si Pontius Pilate at saka yung mga Romano na siya ay Panginoon eh. Pero sa akin ho, yun ho ang pananaw ko. And I can debate with you and you can debate with me till we're blue in the face. Pero hindi po magbabago yung pananaw ko. And I appreciate you're trying to convince me. Pero ako mismo dapat ako may rason na dapat patayin eh. Eh kung palagay nyo, pinatay ko na lang yung pumatay sa tatay ko, pinapatay ko. Tama po ba yan? Eh bakit tayo gagastos? Eh sabi nga nung isang doktor sa Amerika, tama yung ginagawa dyan. Ang gastos sa bawat preso ay pagkain ay malaki. Dapat patayin na lang yung mga tao. Kung pinatay mo yan, hindi na tayo gagastos sa preso. Yung ginastos dyan, 73 million ata yun, kung pinang-aral mo lang yung mga bata, mas marami ka makukuha. Pero hindi natin ginagawa yun because tama na eh.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the President declares of national state of emergency power, I think inisip niya para sa kapakanan ng ating bansa. Gusto ko lang, for the record, Mr. President, gusto ko lang ipaalam sa lahat na ang Presidente, no, kilala ko na siya bago pa siya naging Presidente. Ang puso niya, mapabuti ang kapakanan ng ating bansa, matulungan ang mga mamayan, hindi para sa kanyang sarili, kundi para sa ating lahat. Now, if we know that we can do something to help the President, we'll do it now. Tulungan natin siya. Hindi natin siya hilain pababa o ano. This is our country, this is our nation. Ito ang bahay natin, ito ang tahanan natin mga Pilipino, magkaisa tayo para sa ating bansa. Pangalagaan natin. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
Hindi po natin sinasabing mali si President Duterte. Sinasabi ko lang, gawin natin yung tama. Ang konstitusyon ang sinasabi, dapat isi-share mo yung powers ng emergency powers para hindi siya magkakamali. Alam niyo, pag presidente na kayo, Mr. Pacquiao, Senator Pacquiao, pag naging presidente kayo, maraming nakapaligid sa inyo na chuchuwari-wari-wap, akala kayo ang pinakamagaling. At pag ang mangyayari dyan, ay baka maligaw rin tayo ng landas. Nagmamakaawa ko yung aking kaibigan sa Senator John, tigilan ko na. Titigil na po ako. Yes, go ahead.
Majority
President, may we recognize Senator Leila de Lima?
Yes, sir.
Senator De Lima is recognized.
Gusto ba doon ako?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't even know where to start.
I would start by saying, will the gentleman yield?
Interpellation. Yes,
Because that
Mr.
is usually
President.
the norm here, Mr.
Yes,
President.
I can start.
Because
with
if I
that.
say no, you cannot ask me questions. In the same manner that when you had
So
your
we'll-
first privilege speech, you said you will not take questions. So I'm willing to yield, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. So I need not ask?
Oh, no,
Because
you have to ask.
The gentleman
You have to
is
ask.
willing to yield to
Because
some
you have to ask.
questions.
Do not assume.
Actually,
Your Honor, this is just friendly banter.
Yes, yes.
because, you know,
so will the gentleman yield to a
I
few
will yield
questions?
with loving heart, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'm sure this is going to be a friendly exchange.
Well,
I am just looking at a bill, and I guess the privileged speech that the good gentleman has just delivered is a sort of a sponsorship of this bill. This is a bill, an act declaring a national emergency against drugs and terrorism, establishing a national policy to authorize the President under the Constitution to exercise necessary and proper powers to address such emergency. I just saw this bill about 15 minutes ago. So does the gentleman confirm that he has in fact filed, or is he filing this bill?
It has already been filed, Mr. President.
When was this
This
filed?
afternoon. This afternoon.
So just this afternoon.
And that's the reason why, Mr. President, and I was asked by the reporters here, I said I was contemplating filing a bill. And when I was asked over the weekend, I have not yet filed the bill. I will file the bill and you will see it.
Okay, so you did file, the gentleman did file this afternoon this bill.
Yes, Mr. President.
And given the enormity of the proposal, the magnitude, the enormity, the importance of this proposal, certainly us in the Senate would really need a lot of time to go over this.
Definitely,
For purposes
Mr. President.
of today's interpellation, I'll try to limit it to just a few questions so far. Obviously, your bill seeks to go beyond what the President has sought or has done in issuing proclamation number 55. Correct?
My bill is more specific, and it is due to my belief that the proper thing to do is to let the public know what the intentions of the government are. And in the article that I mentioned, Article 6, Section 23, it says we can prescribe the limits upon which the power will be undertaken, how long it is, and the national philosophy behind it. The bill of the President, as Senator Pacquiao said, is probably well-meaning, but most people would become afraid. They would like to know where we're headed. We write bills because under the rule of law, there must be clear description of the law so that there will be redress or recourse to the powers vested upon us by the Bill of Rights and many other things. And that is why it is not enormous. It was worked on very, very hard over the weekend. My voice is crackling because of lack of sleep, but it's something that I enjoyed immensely.
With due respect to the sponsor, this looks very enormous to me. That's
Very
why
normal?
we need, yes.
Enormous?
Enormous.
Well, thank you, madam.
And a bit alarming for me. But I need not expound on that at this point. Now, obviously, proclamation number 55 is an exercise of executive power. And as you did mention earlier, the President is aware of the restrictions on the executive power, especially if he would suspend the writ of habeas corpus or even declare martial law. So he limited himself into the declaration of a state of national emergency on account of lawless violence in Mindanao.
That's correct, Mr. President.
And plain and simple, this is just supposed to be the call-out powers of the President.
That is our interpretation of it. And that is the interpretation of the Supreme Court.
And that is purely executive power under Section 18, Article 7, but of course subjected to certain check because Congress may actually revoke.
It is a declaration but not an exercise of the power, Mr. President. It is a declaration of a state of lawlessness, of a state of emergency, but he cannot exercise that powers because Congress first is limited by that provision that he cited, which I think is not well advised, but he can be limited by what is in the Constitution insofar as the Senate is concerned. Or the
but
Congress
the power to call out or to call out
that's
or the
legitimate.
power is
Legitimate.
in itself a power, an
That is
executive
legitimate.
power.
Yes.
So it's an exercise of an executive power.
Yes, Your
but
Honor.
not subject to any congressional concurrence, but maybe perhaps still subject
if
to
the
judicial
President
review.
goes beyond it, the Senate can do so. Do we want that situation where we have to tell the President that he's going beyond?
And we do know also that in his proclamation number 55, they focused only, or they confined such call-out powers to terrorism.
Terrorism and Mindanao, by and large.
Yes, terrorism in Mindanao and the possible spilling out from Mindanao to the rest of the country, particularly in metropolitan
I
areas?
don't know if he limited that because he put in lawless violence. There's lawless violence going on, Mr. President, with vigilante killings.
We also do know that there have been previous...
Let me just finish with all due respect. Lawless violence can include vigilante killings, can include riding in tandem.
That's precisely my line of questioning, Mr. President, because we do know that there have been pronouncements, no less than from the President himself, and also from spokespersons, I guess, or from even CPLC, Panelo, that they were in fact contemplating also, as part of the scope of this proclamation declaring state of national emergency because of the drug killings, or the spate of killings.
I'm glad that they're transparent about it. I'm happy about it.
Do we know whether in the final version of this proclamation number 55, the executive saw it fit to limit such proclamation only to terrorism and not include these killings?
Res ipsa loquitur, the best evidence is the proclamation.
Yes, but do we know why there was such a change of heart?
I don't
because
know.
We even heard from media reports that CPLC Panelo had said that even before the September 2 Davao bombing, they were supposed to be, or they were already drafting, or if not, or they do have already the draft proclamation, which supposedly includes the killings.
For the record, Mr. President, I think that was denied, and I say it carefully. I think it was denied. I think Senator Dedon is aware that he has denied it. But at the same time, Mr. President, I go by what I see. And from what I see, I do not expect them to do anything else, because if they do, they will go beyond the pale.
But didn't we hear also the President himself saying that he's also trying to address the killings? That is why he is declaring a state of national emergency and not just a terrorism, because we're being told that that bombing in Davao last September 2 was an act of terrorism. But actually, his own statements also indicate that he, the President, was contemplating including killings in the declaration of national emergency or state of national emergency.
For the record, Mr. President, I've only seen the President once since he got elected, and that was on the budget. And I was with other senators, and we were very transparent about it. At the same time, I do not know what is in the mind of the President. I do not know what he dreams. I do not know his ambitions. I just go by what I see.
Kailangan ko lang ho talagang banggitin ito at tanungin, baka ho meron nakakaalam sa atin, kasi yun na nga ho, it was rather perplexing to me na ganun ang sinasabi nila, kasama dapat yung mga spate of killings kasi there is lawless violence or lawlessness. Although the next point would be, dahil nga ho may nagsasabi na because of this all-out drive against drugs and criminality overall, we see already our streets as quite safe. And therefore, that would be in contradiction of any theory or any proposition that there is lawlessness. Which? Is there a state of lawlessness or lawless violence, or is there a condition or a state of safety overall in the streets? So probably, if I may speculate, if this representation may speculate, that could be one of the reasons why there was such a change of heart after declaring that they would include, or they are considering including, the case of killings.
Mr. President, I dare not speculate. I have heard, for example, that the bombing was caused by Abu Sayyaf and a marriage with the drug lords.
And
I can also say that it could have been perpetrated by a foreign power trying to destabilize the government. I've heard to say in my statement, and I was suggesting that we could even be destabilized by China, just as the British destabilized them in the Opium War. I could say that, but I go only by facts, and I go only with what is seen. After all, we would be called upon, when there is something like this that happens, to determine what are the factual bases for the declaration, Mr. President.
And talking still about the September 2 bombing, has there been any official confirmation or official verification that it was the handiwork of the ASG?
Well, the ASG made a statement that they were the
acts
ones.
of terrorism.
That they were the ones. ASG. They're very proud about it. They said, we're the ones.
I'm not sure whether that is accurate, Mr. President. I think after owning up to that incident, to that bombing, and we're not even sure what ASG was this. Was this a faction or another group within ASG? After owning up, wasn't there a disclaimer later? And we have not heard after that from the state security forces whether there has been any confirmation that it was the handiwork of the Abu Sayyaf.
I'm not aware of any disclaimer. I do know what I heard and what I read, and that they're claiming that they were the ones who perpetrated it. I'm not in a position to believe that, although that is certainly very telling. Nobody says a statement. It's called a statement against interest. And therefore, it makes it look credible that they admit to it. And if they admit to it, you're a lawyer yourself. The distinguished lady is a lawyer herself. One day, if you catch this person who spoke that, you can use it against her, against him, for admitting that they were the ones who perpetrated the bombing. And that is good for us.
And that is why I think it's really a very legitimate query that we should be able to really confirm from the appropriate authorities, state authorities, as to the status or the progress of the investigation into that incident of bombing last September 2. Whose handiwork was this? I have not seen any official report from any of the concerned state authority making any conclusion as to who could be responsible for that dastardly act last September 2.
Mr. President, that's precisely why I'm saying, and I recited about 405 cases, I think, of bombings all over the country. Practically 95% of them have not been solved. It takes a while. Who
Yes,
killed
and
President Kennedy? Who killed Senator Aquino? There have been two presidents who are supposed not to rob the country of their rightful knowledge of closure of who killed them. That's important, but nothing has been done. It's still closed. In the matter of the bombing, the military says, or if I look at Facebook, they say this vice mayor had been captured and that he is part of the bombing. I don't know. I will have to wait until something happens with that. But if the questions are based on speculations, I'm willing to stipulate here that the gentlelady is entitled to speculations, but like Manny Pacquiao, Senator Pacquiao, I'm entitled to my own belief. And if I don't know anything about it, I will answer you forthrightly.
Thank you. Still about Proclamation number 55. Now, since this is merely an exercise of the call-out powers,
I believe so.
State of national emergency on account of lawless violence in Mindanao, then obviously what this entails is just simply the deployment of more forces, military forces, augmenting the regular PNP forces. That is what we understand the call-out powers to comprehend, or to cover the exercise of call-out powers.
Mr. President, I failed to state in my speech, but if you look at the record of my speech on paper, I failed to listen to that because I jumped into it. I jumped into another topic right away, too early enough. I said that the President was smart enough or clever enough
Yes.
to have peace agreements or temporary peace agreements or ceasefires is the better word, with the MILF and with the NPA, so that now he can now put more forces to bear in Sulu, in Basilan, and in Lanao, and hopefully eradicate the menace.
And
At least he's doing something about it, Mr. President.
And I wonder whether we have any update on exactly how much forces now have been deployed
The last time I heard
pursuant to this all-out powers.
they put out 8,500 troops, I believe, in Sulu, and they put in another battalion or a couple of battalions in Lanao. That's again speculative. I just read, and what I read,
And do we have any updates also on exactly how this call-out powers is being exercised in metropolis or in metropolitan areas?
Well, obviously, Mr. President, we don't need an update because you see Army troops on the streets, on checkpoints. and police. And Mr. President, I don't know whether we want to talk about that here, how much troops we deployed, because that will tip off the enemy. Security would be important.
Well, I can understand that. I'm just trying to understand exactly the scope now of the call-out powers and how it's being implemented. And now you are putting up the proposition, the good gentleman from Olongapo is putting up the proposition that these call-out powers may not be sufficient to address a situation that we have now. And that is why the sponsor would want to expand the coverage of any additional powers, emergency powers, whatever, also not only to terrorism, but also to the drug problem or the killings and the killings that we are now seeing. Is that the premise of this bill?
Yes, Mr. President, we're sworn to protect the public, and I would like to ask my EA to show something that I would like to show here, and which is a movie about riding in tandem, a very short clip on riding in tandem. Mr. President, we have been besieged by this menace of riding in tandem. All of us, every Filipino, is in danger of being shot by anybody riding in tandem. We're there, Mr. President. If you take a look at it, can you just we will rewind it. Can we turn off the lights, please? And maybe the audience can also see what I'm trying to say here. If you look at the picture, Madam President, Mr. President, you can see that this happened in Isabela on November 13, 2015. A car is coming out, man is driving it with his wife and his daughter. Two men come out of the woodwork and start spraying the car with tremendous amounts of firepower. The car goes forward, but they missed. And so they didn't actually miss. They shot him, but it was not fatal. They had about several bullet wounds, but he was able to escape. And take a look. They came back. Hinabol pa. And we wait 30 seconds because they keep firing their weapons at the man. That's not just impunity. Talagang malakas ang loob talaga na makakalusot sila. And so, nakikita natin, naghihintay tayo, lumabas ngayon, yung mga bumaril, naghihintay na yung motorsiklo, sumakay yung tao, and up to now, wala pang nahuhuli just sa pumatay na yan. We brought that man here in Manila and hid his family. Kilala ito ni Liza Entreveros, if I'm not mistaken. You know them, right? Si Mark,
May we know when this incident happened? When this incident took place?
March, in Isabela.
March of this year.
And Senator Entreveros is aware of this. Now, Mr. President, you can see, naglipana ang mga taong katulad yan na pumapatay na lang. Ang dami-dami na papatay.
And that is why, yes, thank you for that. But that is why we're investigating this. And we're still determining the facts. We're still trying to find out the truth. Who are behind these killings?
Mr. President, we can investigate. That's correct. And the lady is correct. But we must do something about it. That is why I have filed the bill on motorcycles. And I will show you a picture, Madam President, immediately after this. A picture that the reason why we cannot capture these people is because the plate numbers are not used, or the plate numbers are so small. And if you will humor me, I will show you the picture of a motorcycle the way it should be done. Big motorcycle plates, and there you go. Malayo pa. I'm sure Senator Rector will appreciate it. You can take a look at it, and you can see the big plate numbers, and that will help solve the problem to a certain extent. I hope the gentle lady agrees. Because right now, walang ganyan. Walang ganyan. In fact, I'm also putting a bill where we will put up big body numbers on jeepneys, on tricycles, which we did in Olongapo very effectively. So you see, what I'm trying to posit here is if we draft a law, we can husband the excesses. Mabibigyan na natin yung excesses because kaya meron niya sa Constitution para maigapos natin yung gagawin nilang excesses. You're manacling. You know, in my bill, they will even be allowed, the government will be even allowed to buy electronic bracelets para yung mga tao, yung malalaman mo kung nasa naroon, kung pinalabas on bail. I mean, that should be allowed. So marami tayong magagawa. I'd rather do something than do nothing.
that's very laudable, of course, on the part of the sponsor, but I do want to really scrutinize, especially the enumeration of the powers, the additional powers that this bill proposes to grant the President, because this is an emergency powers.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we tackle emergency powers, then we have to be very careful that each and every additional power that we intend to grant the Chief Executive would all be within the bounds of the Constitution, and that these powers really are those that are necessary, those that cannot be, well, the situation or the problems that are intended to be remedied by the grant of the so-called additional special emergency powers cannot be done under the current laws or under any of the current laws. That's why I would want to go over the enumeration of the additional powers that this bill seeks to grant the President.
Mr. President, that is, of course, the privilege of every senator to read it. In fact, Mr. President, I said, my premise, my statement, my speech by saying I would like to have a conversation with all our colleagues. My speech was laced with help us, let us help find a way. You heard me say that, Mr. President, and that is why this is a collegial body. We should find a way, the best way, but we should not allow one branch of government to have superiority over all. That is why we quoted David versus Macapagal, Arroyo, to be able to make sure that we don't forget that there is a separation of powers clause which is spread out through every law. And that is why I'm confident, and I hope and pray that you will scrutinize it and you will provide us with the necessary solutions if there are any shortcomings that I failed to see.
Thank you. For purposes of today's discussion, I just want to point out in relation to terrorism, in relation to the Abu Sayyaf. For example, we are of course aware that the ASG has been judicially prescribed already.
As an international...
Last year.
An international terrorist act.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Human Security Act, the DOJ has actually filed the appropriate petition before a regional trial court. I'm not sure anymore whether it was RTC Basilan or RTC Sulu.
For violation of the international humanitarian law, domestic law?
Under the Human Security Act.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It has been judicially prescribed pursuant to the provisions of the Human Security Act. It has been judicially declared as a terror organization.
They were only declared by the international organizations as an international terrorist organization.
As a terror organization within the purview of the Human Security Act. And therefore, given that judicial prescription of the ASG as a terror organization, then we would now be able to authorize the law, that the courts would now be able to authorize interception of communications. In other words, we would now be able to relax the provisions of the anti-wiretapping law, and also measures like examination of bank deposits or bank accounts of this terror organization, also as provided for under the Human Security Act. My point is that some of these powers that are enumerated in the bill may be unnecessary in a form of an national emergency act.
That is the privilege of the gentle lady, and I'm willing to accept any amendment that she may have later on. But insofar as I'm concerned, these are amplifications or fortification or fortifying some of the provisions there. For example, we say there, instead of 20 days, we go to 30 days insofar as extending the period. We say, for example, that we have amplified the insofar as the freezing of accounts, insofar as preliminary attachment. That is not in the Human Security Act. In the Human Security Act, you only have 3 days, and you have to file the case right away. Here, under the writ of Salus Populis Suprema Lex, if we find that there is information that somebody is about to perpetrate a bombing that will produce wanton killing in articulo periculi, you know, in a state of danger, absolute danger, the government must not be helpless. That is why we put it there. They can file the case against them and detain them.
Now, this writ of Salus Populius Suprema Lex, Section 11.
Yes.
I would want to further understand it.
I'm sure you do.
This is novel.
Well, thank you. I'd like to be novel once in a while.
But honestly, I really cannot yet quite comprehend the objective of this writ. It's of course you will have an opportunity to further expound on this, but for now, can we ask the sponsor, what exactly does this cover? Writ of Salus Populi es Suprema.
It covers cases where the state perceives a very clear and present danger that a severe attack is going to be made using the regular processes of the law. They will not be able to invite him or detain him or keep him in custody. But they will try to convince the court that, as in Israel, as in other countries, that they need to have this person submit. And all the processes are available to him, including bail.
But of course, such a writ can only be obtained
by court order.
By court order.
Yes, by any judge. It follows closely the provision in the Bill of Rights that on search issues that no process will be served unless you go before the court and you explain to the court why this is necessary.
And the person to be a subject of this writ of Salus Populi es Suprema Lex per the Section 11 of the bill is any person possessing intelligence information vital to the protection of life and limb.
Yes, Your Honor, because at times when there is a bombing, people are afraid. It is just like inviting him and convincing him that his testimony will be vital for the welfare and the safety of the country. Or for that matter, if we know that somebody has already perpetrated it under the rules of court, you need additional evidence to convict him. And that's where you use Salus Populi Suprema Lex Writ.
Anyway, I'm still, I do need time to really study this.
Like I said, it's the privilege of the gentle lady. I would love to discuss it with her, but
novel
because
concept.
there's no mean bone in that law.
Now going to the drug problem, because that is also part or covered by the proposal. Hindi lang po ako kasi makapigil na kailangan ko naman sigurong straighten certain facts kasi kapag ho binabanggit ang tungkol sa Bilibid or sa National Bilibid Prison ay mukhang ang nagiging senaryo kasi yung ibig palabasin ay wala naman talagang nangyari mula nung nagkaroon kami ng raid noong December 15, 2014. Naalala niyo po lahat yun. Talagang that was covered by national TV. It was really a massive raid. It was a very sensitive operations. It was interagency, actually. And I personally led that raid on the National Bilibid Prison on December 15, 2014. Kaya hindi ko po mapigilan mag-react kapag ang parang pinapalabas ay walang nangyari after December 15, 2014. Naggrabe pa rin ang kalagayan ngayon sa National Bilibid Prison, lalo na ho kapag paulit-ulit hong sinasabi na gumagawa ng droga sa loob ng Bilibid. Ibig sabihin, yung pinapakalat nila na sinasabi nila palagi na merong shabulab daw po sa Bilibid. Ilang beses ko na rin po yan binabanggit sa mga media interviews, kahit nga ho dito sa Senado, na ang aking pagkaalam, dahil yun po ang una kong pinahanap nung ginawa nga namin yung grade na yon in December 15, 2014, na there's no such thing as a Shabu laboratory inside the National Bilibid Prison. Hindi po na-confirm yung haka-haka noon na mismo sa loob ng National Bilibid Prison ay nagluluto o gumagawa sila ng droga. Ang na-confirm lang po namin ay ito nga hong mga ilan-ilan na mga high-profile drug personalities or drug convicts sa Bilibid. Katulad nila Peter Ko, lalo na yan si Peter Ko, sila Colangco, na bagamat hindi siya na-convict for a drug-related offense, ay for some reason, nung nandun na siya sa Bilibid, he was also engaging in drug trade. Pero how did they engage in that drug trade? Ang nalaman ho namin, nung nag-grade nga ho kami, at in the course of the succeeding investigations, ay sila ay nakakapag-transact ng drug trade sa pamamagitan ng mga communication devices, lalo na yung cellphone. Na dahil sa cellphone, dahil sa communication devices, ay nakakapagbigay sila ng mga instruction o nakakausap nila yung kanilang mga cohorts outside the Bilibid. Pero yung allegation po na mismo nagluluto o gumagawa ng droga, I must say this again, na wala po kaming na-confirm na ganong senaryo o mga ganong pangyayari sa loob ng Bilibid Prison. At yung mga tungkol dyan na meron pang banda, meron pang mga jacuzzi, these are already things of the past. Dahil nga po, because of that raid noong December 15, 2014, ay pinadismantle ko na po yung kanilang mga kubol. But of course, after the December 15, 2014 major raid, doon sa mga series of raids, hanggang ngayon nga po, I was even surprised to learn in one of the hearings ng Committee on Public Order and Illegal Drugs na rineport po ni Secretary Aguirre na meron silang recent raid na nakakuha pa rin sila ng ilan-ilan na mga kontrabando doon sa mga high-profile drug inmates na katulad ni Peter Ko, na supposedly nandyan na sila sa safe and secure facility called Building 14, and supposedly ang nagbabantay na po sa kanila ay mga SAF. So what does that tell us? Ano po kaya ang nangyayari sa Bilibid na kahit SAF na ang nagbabantay ay mukhang nakakalusot pa rin if we are to really go by that report of Secretary Aguirre. But I can tell you this, na yung mga recent discoveries na yan, nothing compared doon sa mga nadiskubre namin nung ginawa nga ho namin yung December 15, 2014 raid. So, kaya ko lang ho sinasabi yan, I just want to have it, the record straight, na wag naman po sana na parang, in spite of all those efforts, ay parang pinapalabas na walang nangyari, walang ginawa, lalo na po itong abang lingkod ninyo, na iimbestigahan na nga po ng House inquiry because of the supposed proliferation of drugs under her watch. Now, the clear implication is that this representation did nothing to address the drug problem within the Bilibid. Dun po, I must be honest with what I feel, na nasasaktan po ako dyan, na para bang lahat na lang na mga masamang nangyari sa Bilibid ay sa akin sinisisi. I must beg the understanding, the indulgence of the gentleman from Olongapo, that I was constrained to again express my sentiments about that, because again, about the insinuations na para bang hanggang ngayon, matindi pa rin, grabe pa rin, malala pa rin ang sitwasyon sa Bilibid. na kung i-compare nyo nga po yun dun sa mga na-discover namin noong December 15, 2014, wala na po yan. It already paled in comparison because we did something, we stopped it, we demolished those kubols, we transferred, we isolated those high-profile drug convicts, including yung sinasabi niyo pong drug convict na may death threat sa isang justice ng Supreme Court. I got that information also prior to the December 15, 2014. Kaya nga po, isa siya doon sa mga pinalipat ko temporarily to the NBI detention facility. I suppose that the good gentleman from Olongapo and my colleagues would understand why I'm reacting in this manner.
I perfectly understand, Mr. President, and I respect the sentiments of the good lady. I far be it from my mind to have any insinuation. If I said anything such as that, it's just that I distinctly heard the PNP chief say that there were drugs being manufactured inside Bilibid. And I did not say you were the one manufacturing it or you had anything to do with it. I merely want to state that, and if I've caused you some discomfort, I apologize, because it was not my intention.
No, I actually didn't mean anything. It's not really the good gentleman from Olongapo.
Sambales, ma'am, because I was born in Castillo, Sambales. Try to make my constituency a little bigger.
And I would be reserving further questions. I'm not sure whether it's still going to be on plenary or the proper committee to which the privileged speech or the bill would be referred, because there are lots of things to be scrutinized under this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Senator De Lima. Senator De Leon.
Yes, Mr. President, this is Senate Bill 1134. I assume this will be referred to the appropriate committee when the reference to business, when it is included in our order of business. And well, a lot of us have a lot of questions, but I think it is best that we raise the questions when the bill is reported out by the committee, and however the provisions come out, then it is at that point that we will raise that this representation intend to raise questions. In the meantime, the gentleman from Sambales has delivered a privileged speech. I don't know, if not necessarily, or principally based on SB 1134. So we just raise the questions at the appropriate time when the bill is reported out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator De Leon.
The gentleman is correct, Mr. President. It should be based assigned to the proper committee. Although it would be appreciated because of the prevailing situation, baka maunahan tayo ng ibang mangyayari. But it's okay. It's up to us. Like I said, I was after a conversation, and that conversation will be continued on committee and will be reported out at the proper time.
Majority Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Senator Gordon desires to refer the committee to the Blue Ribbon Committee, Mr. President. This privilege speech. The bill later on will be referred to the proper committee, but the privilege speech of the gentleman, I move that we refer to the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Mr. President, I only mentioned that because I know it can be referred to the committee of Senator De Leon because it's the committee on revision of laws, or the committee on. But I won't mind if it's going to be in the committee on Blue Ribbon. I mean, it's not my desire. It's in the rules.
What is being referred is the speech, gentlemen. Senator De Leon.
If the majority leader has no objection, may we defer the referral of the privileged speech after the Secretariat would have determined which committee would have jurisdiction over Senate Bill 1134, so that both the privileged speech and 1134 will be referred to the same committee, if that is acceptable to the majority leader and to Senator Gordon.
I have no objection, Mr. President. I withdraw my motion.
The motion is withdrawn.
Thank you. And we'll just await the referral of the referred Senate bill.
I would like to thank the Majority Floor Leader and the Senate President for the statements being made here right now, because I think that's in the rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Gordon.
Thank you. Mr. President, may we proceed with the reference of business?
Any objection? Hearing none, let us continue with the reference of business.
Senate Bill number 1130, an act establishing a labor empowerment assistance program, amending Presidential Decree number 442 as amended, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, by Senator Joel Villanueva.
To the Committees on Labor, Employment and Human Resources Development and Finance.
1131, an act reinstituting Reserve Officers Training Corps as a mandatory course for tertiary level students and for other purposes, Senator Joel Villanueva.
To the Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, and National Defense and Security.
1132, an act providing for the development, rehabilitation, and modernization of Naval Airport in the province of Biliran and to allocate funds therefore, Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
To the Committees on Public Works and Finance.
1133, an act is strengthening the national and local health and nutrition programs for pregnant and lactating women, infants, and young children in the first 1,000 days and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality and Finance.
Resolution number 132, a resolution congratulating and commending the Philippine team for garnering 4 medals and 2 honorable mentions in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad held last July 6 to 16, 2016 in Hong Kong, Senator Paulo Benigno Bamakino, the fourth.
To the Committee on Rules.
Resolution number 133, entitled Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Energy to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the impending power disconnection of the Bukidnon Subtransmission Corporation to the service area of the Bukidnon Second Electric Cooperative in the province of Bukidnon, with the end in view of preventing the recurrence of similar events that disrupt economic activities and protecting the interests of the general public, by Senator Subiri.
To the Committee on Energy.
May we also refer that particular resolution secondarily to the Committee on Cooperatives, Mr. President?
There is a motion to secondarily refer PS Resolution number 133 to the Committee on Cooperatives. Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, pursuant to Section 101 of Republic Act 10717, otherwise known as the 2016 General Appropriations Act, I'd like to manifest the following members of the Senate to the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee on Public Expenditures. For the majority, Senator Loren Legarda as chairman, Senators Franklin Relon, Senator Vicente Soto, Senator Sani Angara, Senator Paolo Bam Aquino, Senator Pampilo Lacson, and Senator Villar. For the minority, Senator Ralph Recto.
The manifestation of the Senate contingent to the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee on Public Expenditures is noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, September 14, 2016.
Is there any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, September 14, 2016. The 20th session of the Senate in the first regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Antonio Sani Trillanes IV will lead us in prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, Amen. Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you with grateful hearts. We praise you and give you glory for the wonderful things you blessed us and our country with. We pray for your continuous guidance and protection to shield us from the evils of today. May you provide us with the wisdom and fortitude that we may overcome the difficulties that lie ahead. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Trillanes. The Secretary, please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, De Lima, Drilon, Chito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Soveri, Senate President Pimentel.
Ligarda Nabilang. With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. How many? 20, excuse me, Majority Leader, correction, there are 20 senators present. With Senator Escudero, that makes it 21 senators present.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal. Oh, by the way, Senator Po is here, Mr. President. I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 19th session, Wednesday, September 7, and consider the same as approved.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, the motion is approved.
Mr. President, we have many visitors today in the Senate. We have with us the presence of 33 law students from the Pamantasan and Lungsod ng Maynila, led by their class president, Mr. John Erickson Millar Alo. We welcome the visiting law students, Mr. President. And then the guests of Senator Gatchalian, Mayor Grande Gutierrez of Taysan, Batangas, together with his councilors, and Mayor Rowena Codilla of Camanga, Leyte. The guests of Senator Bam Aquino, barangay officials of Palangan, Puerto Galera, Oriental Mindoro, headed by Barangay Captain Estrelita Dolor. We also have members of the Philippine team who won medals in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad. I think there is a resolution to that effect later. We will acknowledge the members and their coaches, Mr. President. I'd like to welcome them, Mr. President.
Welcome to all our visitors, our guests, future pañeros. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Reference of business, Secretary.
Senate Bill number 1129, an act mandating a 2,000 peso across the board increase in the monthly pensions with corresponding adjustment of the minimum monthly pension under the Social Security system, amending for the purpose Section 12 of Republic Act number 1161 as amended, otherwise known as the Social Security Act of 1997 by Senator Soveri.
Referred to the Committees in Government, Corporations and Public Enterprises and Labor, Employment and Human Resources Development.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
with the permission of the Chamber, Mr. President, I move that we suspend the reference of business because I would like to avail of the presence of the members of the Senate right now. So may we, I move that we suspend.
There is a motion to suspend the reference of business. Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you. Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading Senate Bill 1112 under Committee Report number 1.
Mr. Is there any objection? There being none, consideration of Senate Bill number 1112 under Committee Report number 1 for third reading is in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dillon is asking me to adjourn the session on my right side, Mr. President.
May we request
the Secretary to read the title of the measure, Mr. President.
Secretary, please do so.
An act postponing the October 2016 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9164 as amended by Republic Act number 9340 and Republic Act number 10656, prescribing additional rules governing the conduct of Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections and for other purposes.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last September 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule.
And we will still have to spend that 7 billion. In fact, on the contrary, we will be spending more. Some preparatory activities the COMELEC had done will be repeated. For one, the new round of voters registration will have to be conducted. Another familiar refrain we are hearing is election fatigue. That could be the case if barangay elections are a 90-day marathon, like the campaign period for the presidency. But the one for the barangay is a short 10-day sprint. In 2007, we held national and local elections in May, the last time manual counting was done, and then a barangay election later in the year. We also conducted both in 2010 and 2013. But the issue of election fatigue never cropped up. Why? Because unlike a presidential election, which can be a weapon of mass destruction, in a nation where our energy is momentarily dissipated by antics of those applying to solve our problems instead of using it to solve them, barangay polls are small blips in the radar. There are no trolls who will anger us, no social media bashing that will bruise us, no expensive TV ads that will interrupt our telenovela watching. The third pretext is that a barangay election would distract the government from pursuing its great war on illegal drugs. But the effect of the postponement is that barangay officials who cuddle or are in cahoots with drug lords are gifted with another year in office. Those who are barangay captains and drug captains at the same time will have 1 year free pass, not courtesy of the people, but of their fellow politicians. Postponement will rob barangay residents of the chance to boot out barangay officials who moonlight as drug traders or whose feeble leadership allowed the proliferation of narcotics in their areas. Don't get me wrong, Mr. President. Mas maraming barangay leaders pa rin ang matitino. Di hamak na mas marami ang nagsaserbisyo. Mas marami ang nagsasakripisyo. Mas marami ang naglilingkod ng todo-todo. Pero marami din dapat ng palitan. PDEA tagged 13,661 out of the 42,036 barangays in the country as drug-affected. In Metro Manila, the prevalence rate is higher, with 92% of 1,706 barangays penetrated by drug lords according to PDEA. This high rate of drug infiltration in our barangays can only be used as an argument for and not against the scheduled holding of elections next month. For barangay leaders who put their lives on the line in battling drug trade where they live, a fresh mandate from grateful residents not only recognizes their work, but renews their license to wage the war. But for barangay leaders who have long dipped their fingers into the dirty jar of shabu sales, the election provides the people they have betrayed to end to them. It is the only way they can liberate themselves from drug lords and barangay officials who have conspired in a lucrative Occupy the Barangay project. By scrapping the polls, we are in effect telling people in the throes of their self-deliverance that change is postponed Concerns have also been raised that pushing through with the October elections will pull back PNP personnel from the front lines of the drug war. But, Mr. President, isn't it true that deploying policemen to barangays during the campaign period would in fact heighten security in barangays and provide them with the opportunity to conduct Oplan Tokhang in places where they will be embedded? The last of the alibis is that the barangay elections would freeze public works construction, as well as hiring and deployment of government personnel. But isn't it true, Mr. President, that whether there are elections or not, projects are delayed, that funds are not released, that allotments are not obligated, that personnel positions are not filled? This fiscal scourge is called underspending, and the good budget secretary had pegged at about 1 trillion the amount of appropriations that was not released on time or was not released at all over the past 6 years. Last year, for example, 52.22 billion in DepEd allotment was not obligated. 35 billion in DOTC allotment was not obligated. 8.96 billion in DA allotment was not obligated. And 106.36 billion in DPWH was not obligated. For every peso given to it, DOTC managed to obligate only 56 centavos within the fiscal year. On the part of DPWH, 24 centavos for every budget pesos was unobligated within the same period. In the case of DepEd, 1.4 billion of the 2.4 billion budget for meals for malnourished children was downloaded to the regions only at the tail end of the year. So instead of DepEd cafeterias bragging about millions served, their slogan should be millions deprived. So let me ask this. Was an election ever a culprit for
of the resolution? Would like to acknowledge his guests, the members of the Philippine team who won the medals in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad: Kyle Patrick Dulay, Albert John Patupat, Shaquille Wayan Ke, Vina John Torres, Clyde Wesley Ang, Farrell Eldrian Wu, together with their coaches, Dr. Richard Eden and Dr. Louis Vallejo, and the Math Society of the Philippines President, Dr. Marian Roque. With that, Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Bam Aquino to sponsor the measure.
Senator Aquino is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Magandang hapon, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, mga kaibigan, mga kababayan. It's a distinct honor to be addressing you today to commend some of the brightest minds in the country with a resolution congratulating and commending the Philippine team for garnering 4 medals and 2 honorable mentions in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad held last July 6 to 16, 2016 in Hong Kong, or Senate Resolution number 132. The IMO is considered one of the most rigorous and prestigious annual math competitions in the world, Mr. President. This year, the Philippine contingent cumulatively ranked 17th out of 109 countries who participated in the event. Our representatives also brought home 2 gold medals and 2 silver medals. As the chairman of the Senate Committee on Education, Culture, and Sports, as well as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Science and Technology, I am very proud to present to you these young Filipinos who have brought pride to our country. We ask that they rise together with their parents and their coaches to be acknowledged. Honorable mentions were given to Shaquille Wayan Ke of Grace Christian College and Vince Jan Torres of Santa Rosa Science and Technology High School. Silver medals were given to Clyde Wesley Ang of Chiang Kai-shek College and Albert John Patupat of De La Salle University Integrated School. Gold medalists: Farrell Eldrian Wu of Makati Gospel New Life Christian Academy and Kyle Patrick Dulay of the Philippine Science High School, Diliman. Leading the team, Mr. President, was Richard Eden of the Ateneo de Manila University Mathematics Department and his deputy, Louis John Vallejo of the University of the Philippines, Diliman Institute of Mathematics. Our warmest congratulations for bringing pride to the country during the recently concluded 2016 International Mathematics Olympiad. And so, Mr. President, breaking the tradition of honoring athletes and beauty queens, today we honor a different set of honorees, and these are, of course, mathletes, or our math Olympiad competitors. It is my honor, Mr. President, to sponsor this resolution honoring these young Filipinos. Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Aquino.
Mr. President, I move to adopt PS Resolution 132, subject to style.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, PS Resolution number 132 is adopted, subject to style.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also have two numbered resolutions already, but these are simple resolutions. So I move to consider PS Resolution 135.
Is there any objection to the motion? PS Resolution number, hearing none, PS Resolution number 135 is in order.
You ask Secretary to read the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the text of the resolution, the entire text.
A resolution commending and congratulating Josephine Medina for winning a bronze medal for the Philippines in the 2016 Rio Paralympics.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Senator Pacquiao is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pride and joy to inform you that our country has once again dominated in the international sporting arena, for which I filed two resolutions. First, Senate Resolution number 135, a resolution commending and congratulating Josephine Medina for winning a bronze medal for the Philippines in the 2016 Rio Paralympics. Josephine Medina, the Philippines flag bearer, bagged the bronze medal in the table tennis women's single class 8 at the 2016 Paralympics in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil on September 13, 2016. Medina won against Germany's Julian Wolf to secure a podium finish 11-5, 11-6, 11-7. This win indeed the countries would wait for a medal at the Paralympics. This is the first time the country is being home such a prestigious award since 2000. Medina, a polio victim, stands an inspiration to millions of Filipinos to never let their personal battles get in the way of being triumphant over adversities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Pacquiao.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt PS Resolution 135, subject to style.
Is there any objection?
By the way,
Majority
Mr.
Leader,
President,
yes.
may I amend my motion? I move to adopt Senate Resolution.
Underspending? Never. The previous Senate had spent days probing the issue and poring over hundreds of documents, and never was an election or even a barangay plebiscite cited as a reason for the slow use of funds. So it is time to retire it as a bogey for low fund absorption. The problem lies not in elections. It lies in the incompetence of unelected and unelectable bureaucrats. The same could be said with the hiring of government employees. And for the same reasons that elections should be absolved of the unfair charge that they cause delay in personal appointment. Yearly without fail, we allocate funds to hire more teachers, and yearly without miss, DepEd would fail to hire a single teacher before the June class opening, using funds for teacher recruitment for the year. Were these delays due to elections? My dear colleagues, the answer is no. Hindi rin po totoo ang chismis na isang buwan ang haba ng public works ban tuwing may halalan para sa mga opisyalis ng barangay at SK. Ayon sa Republic Act 6679, 10 araw bago magbarangay elections lamang suspendido ang construction. Inuulit ko po, 10 araw o 9 na tulog lang at hindi sakop lahat ng infrastructure projects. Yun lamang pong provincial, city, municipal, and barangay roads and bridges. Hindi kasama ang flyovers, hindi kasama ang mga airport. And on this point, I would like to thank Senator Sonny for accepting my amendments that the ban be limited to barangay-funded roads and bridges and that the personal hiring and promotion ban, except for barangay-funded positions and job orders, be lifted. That would have sufficed for me to be a postponement convert. But I think, despite Senator Sonny's equal brilliant defense of this bill, I would have to vote on the fundamental principle that we should not tinker with the expiry dates of elective officials. Lastly, so that routinely postponing barangay elections does not become a bad national habit, may I suggest that a real, thorough, comprehensive Barangay Reform Act be pursued. And there is no better Senate to do it than the one led by the son of the father of the local government code. Let us go for durable cures, for the real strengthening of our barangays, not band-aid solutions. Mr. President, I vote yes to barangay reforms, but no to this measure. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Recto. Majority Leader.
Senator Ontiveros wishes to explain her vote also, Mr. President. May we recognize
Senator Ontiveros is recognized to explain her vote on Senate Bill number 1112.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor. I wish to explain my yes vote to this bill, Mr. President. After consultations with all stakeholders, such as the COMELEC, DILG, AFP, PNP, and the League of Barangays, I join in the calls to defer the barangay elections for not more than 1 year. This would provide our barangay leaders ample time to fully accomplish their programs in their communities and prepare for the nationwide election. However, Mr. President, on the SK polls, I do support the call of different youth groups to proceed with the scheduled election. The SK election, as I have said in interpellation, has already been postponed thrice, resulting in the youth's political disenfranchisement from local governance. Postponing it again might send the wrong signal that the government is not committed to including the youth in the affairs of governance. However, Mr. President, inasmuch as Senate Bill number 1041 combines the barangay and SK elections postponement in one bill, I am constrained to vote in favor of the bill with the reservations above cited, which I wish to include in the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Ontiveros. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the Chamber, Mr. President, I move for the consideration of PS Resolution 132.
Is there any objection? There being none, PS Resolution number 132, the consideration thereof is in order.
May we ask Secretary to read only the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the entire text of the resolution.
Secretary, please
A
do so.
resolution congratulating and commending the Philippine team for garnering 4 medals and 2 honorable mentions in the 57th International Mathematical Olympiad held last July 6 to 16, 2016 in Hong Kong.
Mr. President, before I move to recognize the sponsor, I therefore move to vote on third and final reading, Senate Bill 1112.
Is there an objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Roll call vote for Senate Bill number 1112.
Roll call vote for senators. Senator Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes.
Recto.
Recto.
Mr. President, I'd like to vote no, but may I explain my vote?
After the roll call vote, Senator Recto.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary, continue, please.
Recto. Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Soveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 2 negative votes, Senate Bill number 2 negative votes, yes. Senate Bill number 1112 is approved on third reading. Senator Recto, the Minority Leader, wants to be recognized for the explanation of his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the indulgence of my colleagues here, elective officials in this land, from the president down to the barangay captain, have the same employment status. They're casuals elected to fixed terms. They are hired or fired through the same process, via the ballot, with their employers, otherwise known as the electorate, each deciding whether to extend or end their job contracts. Elections in this land are triennial summer job affairs, with the candidates strutting their stuff all over or stuffing money anywhere, in a bid to convince their bosses to renew their employment. The reason why elective positions have expiry dates is one of democracy's greatest virtues. By subjecting the performance of officials to periodic review, the people retain the right to replace those who have not been true to their oath or have turned their backs on them. But for those who have served them well, elections affirm their good work, for nothing validates hard and honest labor than a fresh mandate. And nothing inspires good performance more than the threat of being terminated. This fear of feeling the end of the boot is what keeps us casuals always on our toes. It is because of this principle that only the people can directly extend the tenure of elective public officials that I cannot agree to the proposal to postpone the barangay elections. If this was about extending the terms of mayors or governors by 1 year, there would have been widespread uproar by now. If this bill was about our terms, there would have been an uprising, with waves and waves of protesters laying siege to this building like those swarms entrained to Busan. Pero dahil barangay lang ang apektado, parang ang attitude ay carry lang. But barangays are not the far outposts of government. They are the first line of public service. They are the sovereign's first contact with government and not the last. When fisticuffs break out over videoke noise, they don't call the police or tell it to the Marines. They call the barangay. Domestic disputes are not immediately sent up to our clan courts. They are first arbitrated at the barrio hall. Sick people don't have senators or congressmen on their speed dial. Their first and for many the only option is the barangay captain. He is the first to rush to where flames are, whether from a house burning or from candles on a cake of a senior citizen. For many of our people, senators could be distant creatures living in a galaxy far, far away. But barangay officials, for them, are not unreachable stars. So it should not surprise us if they want to have a say on the fate of the terms of office of officials they are closest to, a job which should not be done for them and usurped by creatures living in a galaxy far, far away. Mr. President, many reasons have been advanced on why we have to postpone barangay polls. I put them into 4 clusters, which I called the 4 Fs. Funding, fatigue, fighting the drug wars, and the freeze on public works and government hiring. First is funding. Makakatipid daw. Pero paano? The math here is that by putting off the elections for a year, we are only putting aside funds budgeted for the elections for a year. We can only save money if we are permanently canceling the polls. But we are only postponing it. In budget speak, savings accrue from a terminated project, not from a deferred one. So instead of spending at least 7 billion, if we will hold the elections this year, we will only delay spending it by a year. So in the